Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Cromwell Board of Education, which I'll call to order at 7 o'clock and ask Lisa to do roll call, please. Here. Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Absent. Excellent, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously. So I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I'm going to do Roman numeral 5 first, recognition of departing Board of Ed members, because I know after the celebrating the students, 95% of everyone leaves, so I figured I'd do this while we still have folks here. So first, for those who don't know, Election Day is coming up November 5th. As of November 5th, we have two of our current members who are up for re-election, John and Lori, so certainly wish both of you the best of luck in the upcoming election. And two of our members have decided not to continue, and this will be their last meeting on the Board of Ed as we're canceling our meeting on the 22nd. So just briefly wanted to recognize each of them. First, she's been with us for 4 years. Definitely a very effective board member. Happy to have her on the board. Megan Midgley, she has been a strong advocate for a lot of things, but most, I think, notably to me are the arts and our faculty and staff. Always a strong voice in support of both and making sure that they're getting, those voices are heard. She was one of the rare people that at one point I think had a kid in every school, which was a very unique and helpful perspective for us. Certainly always welcoming with a smile, but that niceness had its limits, and when she needed to be tough, she was certainly very tough when particularly was something she felt passionately about. So we're definitely going to miss having Megan on the board. She's been a great member for the board. Sorry she didn't want to run again, but very happy to have had 4 years of your service and dedication, and wish you luck in your retirement. So. And as nice and smiley as Megan is about as curmudgeonly as the other departing member is. Jay Fletcher. So Jay is our longest serving board member, 16 years on the board, and had not a single gray hair when he first started. Jay has for the past number of years served as the secretary, which we don't have a vice chair, so the secretary is the vice chair. So Jay has definitely been a very strong and effective leader on this board. Everyone loves it when I'm absent because the meetings go much quicker under Jay's leadership and gavel. But Jay has been a very strong advocate for so much that matters to our school district over the years. It's been clear he feels very passionately about making sure our students have the best education, always very focused on making sure we're doing that in a balanced and helpful way for our taxpayers. We always joke because whenever there's a policy, no matter how boring or unimportant a policy, Jay finds some little typo in it or some nit, and is probably the only guy other than the outside of the policy committee to read every single word every single time. But Jay has really been a vocal leader in this community for 16 years, and his service on the Board of Ed has just been outstanding, and certainly one of our community's most valued public servants, and a man of principle and integrity. And it's been an honor to serve by your side, Jay. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Megan or Jay, do either of you want to say any brief words?
First.
And microphone, if you wouldn't mind. And they can be as brief as you'd like or not.
Yes, to be brief. I just want to thank my fellow board members in the town of Cromwell. It's been an honor to serve on the Board of Ed. I know that when I leave, I am going to be leaving the board in really capable, great hands. I trust all of these people so much after working with them and seeing the inner workings, how much dedication and time goes into this calling, really. It's just been a pleasure to work with everyone, and I just love the kids of Cromwell so much, and just looking forward to see all the wonderful things that they do in the future. Thank you.
Voting for, please show up on Election Day, November 5th, at the high school from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., and please cast your vote. It's your local officials are closest to most of the decisions that impact your daily lives, so it's your chance to let your voice be heard. So I'd encourage you to please get out and vote on November 5th. Okay, on to celebrating our faculty and staff, and do you want to go? Fran, do you want to do our first one, or do you want me to? Are you? Okay, perfect. So we were prepared for the backup plan. So Fran, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium to recognize our first celebrating faculty and staff. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Before I start, I just want to say on behalf of the administration, I want to say thank you to Jay and Megan. Thank you so much for all you've done for the district. And Jay, thank you for hiring me. You were. A long time ago.
This was not planned out well.
Uh-oh. Okay, here I am. So I'm here to recognize an individual, a woman who has quite of an accomplishment. Beth Sarnacki is being inducted, or has been inducted, but we're going to celebrate it in November, to the, I've got to think of the right name, the Connecticut Association of Coaches Hall of Fame. She is an inductee. She has already been honored at Rentschler Field, where she was honored at I think it was the halftime of the UConn football game. And there will be a dinner in all of the inductees' honor at the AquaTurf in November. So just to give you a little highlight of Beth, some of us call her B. And she has coached many sports. She's coached basketball cheerleading, girls cross country, boys and girls outdoor track and field, and soccer cheerleading. She has coached, she's presently still the basketball cheer coach, and she's done this for 40 years. She has been the...
Just to be clear, you said 40.
40, yes. She was the outdoor track coach for 30 years. She coached soccer cheerleading for 7 years. She coached girls cross country for 4 years. So she's seen a lot in terms of that. Let's see if I get her. I don't want to mess up here. Her honors, beside what this honor is, which is huge, was in 2001, she was the National Federation for State High School Association Cheer Coach of the Year. In 2004, she was the Connecticut High School Coaches Association Coach of the Year for cheerleading. In 2008, she was the National High School Coaches Association Coach of the Year finalist for special sports, which is cheerleading. In 2009, she was the Cromwell Athletic Club honoree, and in 2011, she was the National High School Coaches Association Coach of the Year for special sports, again, for cheer. So she has quite the resume, and we are thrilled. This, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Hall of Fame for the Connecticut High School Coaches Association. It's a huge honor, because if you think about all the high schools there are in Connecticut. There's well over 200 high schools, and the fact that she is being honored with just a handful, I think there's 8 or 9 of them, it's a huge honor for her, and it's a huge honor for us to have Beth with us. And so at this time, I would like to say thank you very much to Beth Sarnecki.
B, can you just come up for the podium? To say a few words.
Well, first of all, I'm very humbled by this. It's not about me. It's about all the student athletes that I've had that have come. That's the reason I'm here, and that's the reason I'm getting this honor. But I will tell you a story. I worked at Portland High School for 2 years under Gene Riley, and Gene Riley threw me over the bridge to Jake Salafia. What those two men mean so much in my life, and I learned who was scarlet red and who is cardinal red. So we all need to know we are scarlet red and Portland is cardinal red. And my other Hall of Fame quote, and Jake is still alive and will tell you this, is that Gene Riley, when he threw me over here to Cromwell, won his first basketball tournament, state tournament. So Jake will always tell you that's why he did not win that year, because I came over here. So I have to thank the Board of Education, my administrators, my athletic directors, but most of all, the student athletes here at Cromwell High School. They mean a lot to me. I have gone to so many weddings, bought so many wedding dresses, and still buy Pedialyte to football players, as well as I actually had 2 national champions here at Cromwell High School and traveled with them, and there's stories beyond stories that will always be very heartful in my heart. And as one of my favorite lines is, I found my home. It's where my heart is, and that's here at Cromwell. And I thank you very much.
B, on behalf of the board and the entire Cromwell community, really congratulations. There are a few members of our faculty and staff who are more visible presence in our community, who have impacted more students' lives positively than yours. So congratulations and thank you for everything you do for our community. Yeah, please. Yeah, absolutely.
I echo that sentiment. When I first arrived not too long ago, B was one of the very first teachers that I met. And then I kept seeing her, and I kept seeing her, and it didn't matter if it was early in the morning or late at night. She was always here, and those are the types of teachers and coaches and role models that our students need. But you're a role model to me as well. So thank you for everything that you've done for our students. I know I'm new, but I'm sure that our students appreciate you. I know our staff appreciates you. I love the emails that I get, all the updates of everything that you do. The list goes on and on and on. Fran did a great job with all the athletic, which is why B is getting the awards. And she does so much academic. I don't know how she does it. And she does it because she loves it. And she is probably upset that she's here right now because she'd rather be in her classroom doing things that she needs to get done. But thank you very much. And it has been an honor, even though it's only been 2 months, to work with you.
And I was remiss when acknowledging Megan and Jay, thanking 2 former board members, Phil Gagnon and Frank Emanuel, both here also to wish their colleagues farewell. So thank you, gentlemen. Okay, the next one. So I thought this, we don't normally have things that recognize our superintendent, but this was an award I thought was important to recognize, to share with the community. That Dr. Macri won for things she did before she came here, but I think certainly things that are going to be very helpful for our district given some of the situations that we've had to deal with from time to time. So we're very grateful for Dr. Macri, and I'll just read some excerpts from this. She was this year's recipient of the Middlesex County NAACP Branch's 2019 Education Service Award, which was presented to her for her outstanding commitment in furthering the goals and aims of the organization through outstanding work in the Middletown Public School System, her prior employer, in assisting students with furthering their initiatives in education, and they also congratulated her on her advancement to become the superintendent of schools in Cromwell. And it's really for recognition of her very strong leadership and in Middletown, particularly around issues of diversity and inclusion and equity. So we're very, very happy to have her continue and further that work here in Cromwell. So please join me in congratulating Dr. McAfee on that important recognition.
Like I said on the when I opened the letter, and I realized that I received this award, I said, "This is the best award that I have ever received in my entire life," and I mean that wholeheartedly because it's really hard work to do equity work, and it takes a community to do it and to want to make the lives of all children and adults, but we're here focusing on our children, better, and working together as a community is the only way that we're going to do that. So to me, yes, this was a really exciting award that I got, and I did make the promise when I received it, and it was written in, because it's Middlesex County, so Cromwell counts, that I promised that I would continue to do the work so that our students will benefit and so that all of our students are included and have an opportunity to succeed at whatever they wish to do in life.
And during her superintendent's update later this evening, she'll share some of the work that she's helping lead in the district on those issues. Okay, on to celebrating our students. Who has our first one? Fran? Welcome back to the podium, Mrs. DiFiore.
Oh God, it's gonna fall. I got it. Thank you. So it's kind of a joke in my office that in September, if something comes with the return address of the National Merit Scholarship Corporation, all the secretaries know that to get the envelope to me right away because I act differently. I get very excited. I rip it open. I read it. I run to the counselors. I tell them what I saw. So this year was not any different, except for I have a new secretary. So she was wondering why I was reacting the way I did until I explained how exciting it is for me to get this news. So this year I have 2 students who are commended students from the National Honor Society. What the National Merit Scholarship Corporation does is they identify 50,000, and I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really not when you think of everyone in the United States that takes the PSAT. 50,000 students, and what happens is 16,000 of them become semifinalists, and then the other 34,000 become commended students by a national selection score. So there's a score that they determine, and then if they've hit that score or better, they become commended students. These individuals have demonstrated outstanding potential for academic success. It's based on the PSAT that they take junior year. And those 2 commended students are Kadrin Pulling and Brianna O'Rourke.
And guys, can we make sure you face your parents so they can see that?
All right.
Ladies, job very well done, and thanks to your families for all the support that made this possible for you guys. So good luck in the rest of your time here in Cromwell. Okay, next up, who's Mr. Butwill? Welcome to the mic.
All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight, for celebrating our students, we're very excited to be celebrating our growth of our music program at Woodside. You may remember that 2 years ago we discussed expanding our programs, and one of the changes that we wanted to make was beginning instrumental lessons in 4th grade instead of 5th grade. So last year we initiated that change, and so this year we have 5th graders returning to Woodside with a full year of instrumental instruction under their belt. And so tonight we just wanted to share a little bit of that amazing growth. And so I'd like to invite Mr. McCabe, our instrumental band director, to come on up and talk with you a little bit about what he's seeing. And then even more exciting, we have some of our 5th graders here today who are going to put on a brief presentation for you and show off their skills. So Mr. McCabe.
Good evening. Thanks for having me and our students here from Woodside. I'm very excited to be here tonight as the band director at Woodside, having both a 4th grade and a 5th grade band. The growth that we've seen in students is not only seen at Woodside, but also at Cromwell Middle School and at the high school, ultimately, when these students matriculate. So these are the first class of students here in Cromwell that will have had the full and the longest tenure in the instrumental program here at Cromwell. So it's very exciting to see the students grow from last year when they were just beginning to where they are right now. So if it wasn't for beginning in 4th grade, these students would be absolute beginners right now and would just be learning how to open their cases, as my 4th graders are right now at Woodside, and making all the squeaks and squawks and all the sounds that I'm sure the parents are far familiar with. So I thank the board and administration and all the classroom teachers at Woodside for helping make that happen. And I thank you for supporting us as we grow and we continue to enroll students at every level. So thank you very much.
And on that note, on every level, in the back corner there, which I think just shows the great community we have here, Mr. Sinclair and the jazz band members from the high school here to support your band and watch them perform tonight. So thank you guys for joining us.
And although this is only a few small select students, my band is larger than just 8 students. But these students are, and I'll have them stand up or wave just so they can be recognized. Starting from the far left, you have Kira Beyer, Mariama Omarajic, Molly Wendt, Brendan Russ, Jack Drew in the back. I've been calling them wrong name all week. And Liam Lefebvre, Amy Diaz, and Peyton Kelleher. So thanks to these fine students and their parents for helping them come out tonight. Thank you very much.
So I'd encourage board members, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, come on.
picture with you and the band for the parents, if you don't mind.
Okay, we can do that. You want to stand up? Yeah, bring your Oh, there's many
How about another round of applause? For joining us. Outstanding job, and we hope you keep it up and that we'll see you with Mr. Sinclair someday down the road. But Mr. McCabe, thank you so much for the great work and for having them all join us tonight. Families and students, we'd love you welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to leave whenever you'd like. We will not be offended. Okay, recognition. So on to correspondence. I don't think we have any correspondence, Dr. Macker, is that correct?
No, nothing.
Okay, any public comments? Any member of the public who would like to speak? Okay, before we do public comments, I'll read the rules for public comments and then invite you, sir, to come to the podium. So we welcome and encourage public comments at our Board of Ed meetings. To make sure that our meetings are conducted respectfully while encouraging public participation, following are the rules for the public comment portions of our meeting. There are 4. Number 1, individuals are welcome to address the board for up to 3 minutes each during the public comment portions of the agenda, but board members or administrators will not generally engage in dialogue. The Board of Ed chair may, at his discretion, extend the time for public comments. Number 2, you must come to the podium and share your name and address. Number 3, to facilitate efficient sharing of your comments, we encourage you to share any comments you may have about instruction, discipline, or learning materials, first with your student's teacher, then principal, followed by the superintendent before coming to the board. However, if you do not believe your comments have been addressed appropriately, or if you believe they should be shared with the board for any reason, please feel free to do so. And last but not least, all comments must not include personal attacks, and comments cannot be discourteous, threatening, vulgar, or otherwise inappropriate. And the board chair may, at his discretion, curtail any public comments if he violates any of these rules. And there we go. So sorry for the long-winded rules, but want to make sure everyone's got the same.
That's a good reminder. I read them before I came.
Excellent. And if you can make sure the red light is on.
It is on.
Okay.
Matthew Zabrowski, 25 Sovereign Ridge. Thank you for your time, first off. And I don't think you have to disparaging remarks. If anything, I'm fairly complimentary, despite the fact that I am here with an issue. First thing I'm going to say is, in a little while, you have to make a vote or take some action on moving some funds around. You have some funds left over from last year's budget, approximately $4,700 to be precise. Actually, to be very precise, it's $47.67 and 13 cents. What's that? 70. Oh man, thought I had it. Anyway, so I don't want to go too far into this because it's kind of a longer story than it needs to be, but our daughter attends the pre-K program at ECS, which we love. Our son attended it as well, had a great experience. Back in March on the 12th in this meeting, there was a discussion about tuition for it, which is fine. It's a great way to bring in revenue. It's a great way to make sure the program is supported. And it was said that approximately $102,000 was going to be anticipated to coming through tuition. At the same time, it was mentioned that there was before and after care available for preschool students. Then we had a parent meeting or an information night, and we were told that there is before and after care available for pre-K students directly in the school. So we gladly, with our son having had such a great experience and having had before and after care in his pre-K program, gladly signed up, very excited. Our daughter was thrilled. She gets into the program, and at 1:30 in the afternoon on the first day of school, we get an email that says, "We're sorry, the before and after care will not be able to continue. You're on your own." Of course, we responded, and they said, "Well, we'll give you till the end of September to try and find something alternate." The problem with it is there's nothing alternate. There are no daycares in the area that have before and after care for preschool students that will transport them to and from ECS. So if we don't have that, we have to pull our daughter, who loves, and I'm going to give her a plug here, Miss Mandeville, who absolutely loves Mrs. Mandeville. She's fantastic. Now, Enza and I have talked quite extensively about this, and I do appreciate your time and your candor. Mike and I have communicated back and forth, and I like to think that if I was unfriendly, at least I was not discourteous.
Yeah, and to be clear, those are the generic rules, not applying specifically to you.
Okay, thank you. And Enzo, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I know this isn't actually a discussion. This is me just saying things. But what it comes down to is, my understanding is that the program, the before and after program, which is managed mostly by Park and Rec Department, would need about $9,100 to make it through the rest of the year. There's only 4 families enrolled, with the hope that other families may enroll as the year goes on. So $9,100. Well, we've got $47.77, I think she just said, that is left over from last year. That could be applied to that program to at least keep it going, and we can look for the other $4,400. The reality is the preschool program has a grant that's bringing in $150,000 a year. The preschool program now has tuition. The estimated amount for that tuition last year, and it was noted as being a conservative estimate, was $102,600, I believe. So you got $250,000 all coming into one program through tuition and grants. You have a surplus budget last year of over $4,700. You need $9,100. I'm sure there's a way we can find the other $4,400 if we can allocate what was left over from last year to this program. And that's what I'd like you to consider doing. So you have to take action in a little while on whether or not to take that $4,700 and put it into another account, which is a savings from last year, or table it for a month, talk amongst yourselves, see if it's worthwhile to put that into the before and after care program, and then see if we can find the other $4,400. Now, it's only 4 families, but placing students first is our mantra here, yes? It's 4 families that are going to have to lose their preschool that their kids are already involved in because they don't have before and after care anymore. We have looked everywhere. And at the same time, we can't expect the district to provide transportation to and from because that's a prohibitive expense. So I want you to consider, I'm asking you to table the vote tonight, talk amongst yourselves and see if there's a way that we can take that $4,700, look around for $4,400 more, and continue the program. I thank you for your time. And Enzo, our mayor, have all been really well at communicating with us, even if it hasn't always been, I think it's been amicable, or at least professional, I would say, on both sides. But thank you again for your time. I very much do appreciate it.
Mr. Zabrowski, thank you very much. And just for the record, all of our conversations have been very, very respectful, and really appreciated the way in which you've engaged on the issue. So thank you.
Trying to present just the facts.
No, appreciate that. Certainly, and as we mentioned during the rules, we normally don't respond at the same meeting to public comments, but given that this is an issue that for these parents ends on October 31st, I will ask Enza briefly to speak and kind of just share the story and kind of what we've done to try to address this, because I think everyone agrees the situation is very unfortunate and is not what anyone would want. But as Enzo will walk through, there aren't, from our perspective, and I'll say me, Enza, and from discussions with our legal counsel as well, there aren't viable options that we see at this time. I will say I don't think, and you'll hear from Enza obviously, but I think the funds that we have need to be used for capital expenses. So I don't think anything should happen with today's vote, but I think certainly, if there are other thoughts the board has on how to proceed, certainly welcome that, because so far this has admittedly been through Enza, me, and involvement with very close coordination with the mayor, because it's Mr. Zabrowski. Am I pronouncing that right? Zabrowski.
For the record, I never thought I'd be the crazy parent from the board. I don't understand this usually.
Lisa, can you strike crazy parent from the minutes, please? We've had, I say Enza and me and Jessica, but there have been tremendous amount of discussions with the town as well, because this is really the town running that part of the program, and we've all tried to search for solutions to this, and there's not one that's readily obvious that I would recommend. So, Enza, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. So when I signed on the dotted line in June, this was not one of the areas that I was aware of, but I accept full responsibility for it now. So my understanding is in the past, because we got a grant and we wanted to make pre-K very successful, because we all know that pre-K is incredibly important. If it's provided by the school system, not that there are phenomenal pre-K programs out in the community as well, it does make it easier for the transition of the students. It's one less transition for kids. So what happened was, I believe a couple years back, there were a few students that participated in the pre-K, but it broke even. The pre-K, before school and after school care, it broke even. The second year, because there are special certifications that you have to have in order to work with pre-K students, so you can't just have, so we have Kids Corner through the Y. We can't just put students of pre-K with K through 5 students. You have to have a separate program. So the Y and Park and Rec worked together to figure out how they could offer this service to the Board of Education. I believe everyone's intent was really it was well intent. The principal said, absolutely, we're going to offer this, and it was offered. Not thinking that, and my understanding is that parents were told that if they didn't have enrollment, they would know at a certain time. That, to me, doesn't, whether it was or it wasn't, doesn't make a difference, because now the child is enrolled. So if we keep the child at the forefront of our mind, whether or not they were told or they weren't told, we're still talking about, I don't care if it's one kid or 500 kids. I care about all of them. I mean, I do care. So as Mr. Zabrowski and I started to talk, and then I spoke with Mr. Tuno, and I work with the Y, Melanie Carfora. It ended up working out okay because I've had a relationship with Melanie through Middletown as well. Melanie explained to me why they could not continue their losses. And then Park and Rec explained why they couldn't continue, because it would be $9,100 to continue it for the rest of the year. At that point, I just asked, working with Mayor Fienza and Chairman Camilleri, can we give these families a little bit more time to find something? Because it just seems we're telling them at the beginning of September that only gives them a short period of time. I don't like the idea of having to tell them anyway, because at the end of the day, it is a transition for the child. But can we give them a little bit longer? So town manager Tony Salvatore was gracious enough to split the cost with the Board of Education so that we can allow the program to continue until the end of October, which would give families an opportunity to find another pre-K, before school for pre-K. The problem with that is that if you think about it, preschools, they'd be losing business if they were to transport to our pre-K. So, and some don't even have that. They don't offer it. They'll bring kindergarten students to us, but they won't bring pre-K students to us because it's basically taking away business from themselves. So then I just started to really think deeply. Okay, what can I do? Without getting too deeply into budget, and we will later, we are literally to the penny. We're still recouping. We're trying to settle some situations that we have to settle because of things that have happened in our recent past. So I'm very concerned about expending $9,100 for the board. I don't think it would be a viable option. With that being said, I started just thinking, and I called our, I thought I had a couple ideas, and I was told no.
So the 9,100 is for how many kids?
It's for 3 students. So it's for 3.5, because the fourth hasn't signed up officially yet. It doesn't begin until January, and I believe it's only half-time. We did e-blasts. We did everything we could to try to attract more people, because this actually is it's a great thing. But families have other options, grandparents, and such. So no one else joined. So at that point, I started to think outside the box, and I got to a point where I looked at all the legalities of what do I need in order to put someone in place to do preschool. And it sounds like an easy fix. Why can't I just put someone in there and continue to charge the parents? Because the parents are paying for this they're paying for it. So I would be able to pay. I would be able to pay a para-educator, which was my thought, at $23 an hour. I thought about the preschool teachers, because you have to have a specific certification. But if it's within the school, you don't have to have that specific certification. If we were the board was willing to accept all the responsibilities. So I thought, well, we take care of kids all day. This isn't going to be that big of a deal. So it was much bigger of a deal than I thought. If to hire the pre-K teacher at per diem, we would be it would be 4, and that would be if we have one, and that would be if she would want to do it, which means she would start her day at 7 and end at 6 at night. I didn't even ask her because we can't afford it. The second option, which I looked into, was a paraeducator at the top step, because I'm sure it's an attractive position. And then I consulted with Jessica Ritter, the board's counsel, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. And then we had a long discussion, and she said, it makes good sense, Enza, but I think there are some things that we're missing. So she went into tons of statutes that I could forward to or bore you with and read. But there are so many other statutes that fall into the care of providing of students at that age. And then we started talking about the health, so what kind of training I would have to get these people in order to take care of all of the health requirements and everything else. That the reason why we were contracting with the Y in the first place is because all of their people are trained. So by the time her bottom line, she said, Enza, I don't think this is a responsible decision for the Board of Education, and not a viable option. At that point, I felt like I was at a standstill. And what I did love about this entire thing was this conversation. I've never heard, I don't want to say never, but the very first thing, my discussion with the mayor and Chairman Camilleri, especially, not that you didn't, but the mayor said, had the same exact thought that I had. I said, it's 4 kids, but it's 4 kids who have to get used to something different. And that transition period makes me feel badly for our students. So at least we were all thinking, not just with our minds, but with our hearts too. So it's been, I feel like I've exhausted every option, and I feel badly for the Zabrowskis, and there are other families, and we will not be offering this next year because I don't think we can sustain it. Over the last 3 years since we got the grant, it hasn't been sustainable. The city, you can't, the town, I'll get used to it eventually, the town can't sustain it, and the Board of Education can't sustain the funding of it. So that's, long story short, Mr. Zabrowski has been nothing but exceptionally professional, and I share his sentiments with him. And I do feel terrible about it, almost to the point of where I want to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and watch the children myself. But I was told by Jessica that would be a bad idea too. So that's the short of it.
And so again, I wanted to give the opportunity for the board to hear, both from Mr. Zabrowski as well as from Dr. Macri about how the kind of situation unfolded. And again, I share Dr. Macri's, kind of bottom line unhappiness that there isn't a more viable solution, but there's not one that I can recommend being in the best interest of the district for the board to pursue. There is not a specific agenda item dealing with this, but given the circumstances, again, the timing, if anyone has any questions from the board for Dr. Macri, I'd certainly allow those at this time. Jay?
I have a question on the timeline. So the sign-up was back in what we'll call the spring, and at that time, parents were told that there would be after-school care, before and after-school care.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
What happened then at the beginning of September? I guess I'm just not following. Who did what? What happened as to why there was now not going to be after-school care? Mm-hmm. Was the Y dropped out? The town dropped out? What happened? I guess I'm just not following that.
Mm-hmm. So there was a fiduciary, obviously, responsibility from the town to say we can't sustain this, and because the Y can't sustain it. The town contracted with the Y because they had all of the certifications to run it. At that point, there were only 3 students enrolled. We did e-blasts, conversations with families took place, trying to just get the enrollment up by 3 more kids. That was really what we were shooting for, because then even 2 more kids, I believe we would have broken even. But it just didn't happen. So at that point, the Y, who I was told, but I wasn't here, that if there wasn't enough of an enrollment that they would not continue the program. I don't know either of that. Like, I believe both of you.
So normally we would not, Mr. Zabrowski, but I will, given the circumstances, if we keep it brief, I'll allow.
That's actually one of our biggest concerns, is we were told all this in the spring, and then we were told nothing. Not that there was a possibility that the program may not run, nothing until the end of the day on the very first day of school. So if we had found out even 2 weeks before, we would have pulled our daughter out of the preschool and gone to a private preschool that has before and after care. That's why we're so frustrated, honestly. Someone somewhere wasn't monitoring enrollment, and the first day of school went, uh-oh, there's only 3 kids right now. And I get it, mistakes happen, but that's a pretty big one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zabrowski.
So that's where we ended up. So I got a call I got an email from the town, and he's been wonderful to work with, Scott Curious. I can't thank him enough. And I quickly started to text Megan Carfara, because I've been working with Megan for 15 years through Middletown, and I said, Megan, what's going on? I'm a little confused. I didn't realize how this all really was worked out. I'm still learning. She said, do you have a minute? Call me. I called her, and she explained everything to me, and then at that point I said, I would like all of the parties in the room. I called a meeting with Scott Curious, who runs the rec department for the town. I asked Melanie to join the meeting, Miss Tatuno, Miss Weiskel, all of us, so I could just hear everything at once. And there was, we brainstormed and brainstormed and brainstormed. At that one point, that was when I asked Scott if he can please go back and speak with Mr. Salvatore to see if we could do anything about at least extending it for a month. That's when they made the decision for us to split the cost, which was about $600 for a month. Actually, $600 each, and to try to give the family more time. But that isn't necessarily the whole point. Like, that's 20, I would say that's 20% of the issue. 80% of the issue is exactly what Mr. Zabrowski explained, and I am in agreement with, because every kid counts. So that at that point, we just kept brainstorming and brainstorming, and that's when I thought to myself, we could do this by ourselves. Let me look into how do I just disconnect with everyone, because it costs more money. In the end, it would have cost us more money. In order for us to hire a paraprofessional for before and after, it would have been $12,600, but it's legal for me to have receipts. I found that out too, from families, because they're paying for the pre-K anyway. So I would have been able to charge them probably a little bit less of a rate even to do the pre and to cover the cost. But it didn't work out that way because of the certifications and everything that's needed, and that it puts the district at a high liability. So
We get a question from Lori, and then Jay, and then John.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, the miscommunication here. What were we aware in the spring that we needed a minimum number? Was it just assumed that we were going to get that number and it wouldn't be an issue? Like, where was the miscommunication? Who dropped the ball on this? You know, was it told to the district you need 5 kids in it, and that wasn't conveyed to the parents? You know, the parents should have been told up front if we need to get at least 5 or 6 kids in order to have the program, just so they would know there was a chance, so they could have a plan B. I'm just curious. This doesn't make sense, really. I understand his frustration. Doesn't seem fair that it wasn't communicated to the families, right? So I'm just wondering, did we not know up front that we needed a minimum amount of kids? Do you know the answer to that, or?
yes, there's always been a minimum requirement of how many students are needed up front in order to participate. And had I known, and I wasn't here in this, I didn't get hired until June. Had I known that this was even a risk, I would have, I'm pretty conservative. I'll take risks, but I would have made sure 100% from the board side that we made that very clear if it wasn't communicated. I was not there. I am not accusing the Y or the town or Mr. Zabrowski or Ms. Tutuno, anyone of telling me.
And I fully agree
yeah.
that there was a communication
Something,
piece of it, but
right.
nobody envisioned that we weren't going to meet the minimum.
That we
it just
wouldn't meet
wasn't
the minimum.
conceived.
It was just assumed
It was
from
just
the get-go that we're gonna
that
meet
they
the
were
number,
right.
that this wasn't even gonna be a tough
Yeah, doesn't change that we should have communicated that, but the fact is, no one thought it.
Right. And so that's where you're right. I mean, I agree with you. I came in kind of in September, and literally in September, and when I found this out, I said, how is this happening? What could we do? It can't be that complicated for us to fix this. The reason why it's so complicated is because the age of the students and all of the restrictions and the laws that prohibit. I mean, when Jess, our counsel, responded, she responded 20 different acts that we would potentially be violating. I said, oh my God, forget it, forget it. This is, we can't make this happen. So I don't 100% know where the communication breakdown was, because I hear different, so, but I'm.
But I there was
It's
clearly
a good
communication, but I don't think anyone envisioned. I don't think
No.
it would have dawned on someone to say
It was just assumed
something
that
to.
it was
Yeah,
gonna be
5
a
seems
minimum.
so doable. How hard is that going to be? Jay, then John.
So just a question on the $9,100 that you mentioned and Mr. Zabrowski mentioned. What does that get if we were to go that route? And I just want to know what that gets us. I mean, does that get us a before and after program that is fully qualified and fully certified and yada yada yada, whatever qualifications they need?
Yes.
That would quote solve the problem.
Yes, we
Okay.
can go back to what we were doing, the way it is right now.
Okay.
It would take $9,100.
Yeah. Okay.
John.
So, two questions. I'm assuming that there was a contract between us and the Y,
Between the town and
between
the
the
The town.
town
Yeah.
and the Y. And so.
I'm assuming there is too. I do not
we
know that
haven't-
100%.
We haven't seen, so nobody.
I've never looked at the contract.
Has Jessica
before
seen the
this.
contract?
No, Jessica just looked.
She was giving advice on another question.
Yeah, I did ask her
Fine.
to. Yeah.
So, suggestion number one is, why don't we have our attorney look at this contract? Because all I'm hearing is, and while I appreciate your relationship with the people at the Y, sometimes people tell you they can't do something because they don't want to do something, and they may have to do something despite their wishes. So that's number one.
And
Yeah.
just by what I would ask the town to do that rather than the board, just because it's their contract. So I'd ask their council to look at that.
And I get that. And the next question is $9,000 for 3.5 families is about $2,800 per family. How does that number mesh with what people would be charged for after school in the open market? I mean, have we tried the thought of negotiating, having additional payments for that? And-
So the problem
and
is
I'm looking, and I'm not looking at you but I'm asking basically if they asked you if you'd chip in.
The problem is the transportation piece of it. So what would happen is, I'll just use Mr. Zabrowski as an example. He would be responsible, and I'm sure he was fine with it too at that point. I don't want to speak for you. Tell me if I'm wrong. But if there was a daycare provider, a preschool community provider that said, where Mr. and Mrs. Zabrowski can drop their child off at that provider, and then that provider would then transport the preschooler to the school, I believe that whatever it cost, I believe that the families were willing to do that. The problem is that there aren't any that will, because it's a competing business.
And I understand that, but as I understand the way you're describing it, is if there's another $9,000, they could stay in our program. We wouldn't have to bring them from somebody else's daycare or
Yes.
transport them to somebody else's. And
Yes.
And so, why aren't we negotiating that $9,000?
Mr. Zabrowski, I'm happy to have you at the podium again if you'd like.
I feel like I'm on trial.
Yeah.
One of us is on trial.
No, actually they are. You're a material witness.
So, I think I'm on here. So I guess there's two things at play here. One, the $9,100, my understanding, would allow the program to continue for the rest of the year. The families involved are already paying a fee for the before and after school care. It varies by month because it's a daily amount. Example, September I think was $640 some odd. I don't know off the top of my head. I think that's what we paid for before and after for September. We would still continue paying that. The $9,100 would be in addition to what the families are already paying. That's where that would need to come from.
I guess what I'm asking is if it's $1,000 a month out in the open market, and we were to charge you $300 or $350 or even $400 more than you're paying now,
Right.
that would essentially leave you in the same place. And
Right.
And was that proposed or?
I don't think it was, and I can't. I also can't speak for other families. Would they be willing to pay an increased cost?
Right.
I mean, that's not fair for me to say.
I appreciate that you're not going to write checks for other people.
Yeah, I try not to.
And John, one point that I don't know that we know. Found a solution. The only one we're continuing contact with is Mr. Zabrowski. Okay. So it may be that the other families have solutions.
I've been in communication with two others, and they do not.
They do not.
So
Okay.
my understanding is, I know definitely my family will have to leave the preschool, and we pay a tuition of $3,700 to the preschool annually. So we would no longer be paying tuition. So you will take a loss there. I know that another family has also said they will not be able to stay. They're also paying $3,700 dollars for the program. So that's, now you're talking, what's 37 plus 37, and then the third family I talked to, they were trying to work out some family support, but they were kind of piecemealing together aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, to see what they could do. And they were also saying that they, in the end, may have to leave as well. They may be able to string it along for a month longer than we can, but they will likely have to leave as well. So, you're looking at a loss of that tuition as well. So that needs to be considered, I think. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
May I address that?
If you want me, I'll be right over
I don't,
there.
Mr.
I think you just
Zabrowski,
hang out
I
there
didn't
for a
tell
little
you
longer.
this because I didn't want to add anything to the wound. We have 10 students on the waiting list, so we would be.
So you'd be replacing them.
Yeah, we'd replace. I looked into all that too.
Do those 10 families need before and after care?
No, and that was already an expectation. No before and after care. And I did think of that, and I was like, oh my God, how am I going?
You were protecting my feelings. I get it.
How would I didn't want to tell you that.
I understand.
I
wouldn't want to tell me that either.
Salt to the wound. But then the other, like what John or what Mr. Flannery was saying, I thought of that too. I'm like, do I ask these families? And I don't know their financial. Like, am I asking them to pitch? Hey, can you pay $3,000 extra for the all three? Because the $3,700, and I think Mr. Zabrowski would agree, is a great deal. So to say
It's
that
also the best, in my opinion, the best preschool education
it's
around.
the best, right? It's I think it's awesome, and some people do pay $7,000 to $10,000, and I could ask. I can't believe that from a public school advocate that I would be asking a family to contribute $3,000 more. But Mr. Dabrowski, if you would like to do that, you may. That's the part where I feel
Right.
uncomfortable asking, because I don't know the families' situations and if they could afford
But I
it.
think
and
for that,
that's
we need all
also-
three families.
And we would need all
Right.
three families to say yes.
And
then it
that's
would
why I'm
cover.
also looking at it from a financial point of view, and looking at the savings from last year and saying, hey, right there's $4,700. Maybe we can, work with a little bit. But again, my ultimate concern is that I have a 4-year-old daughter who loves her school, who brags about the fact that she goes to ECS with her brother, who's in 2nd grade, who also had a fantastic experience in the preschool and was very well prepared for kindergarten as a result. And I'm going to have to transition her out of ECS into an unfamiliar setting right after Halloween, which, holidays make everyone crazy, but right after Halloween. And then next year at the start of the year, I'm going to have to transition her back to the place we took her out of that she loved. So it's like it's a double transition for her to and from. I'm concerned because as an educator, I understand that preschool is the foundation for what this child's school career is going to be like. As a special education teacher who specializes in emotional and behavioral disorders, I know that even more, that pulling transitions like this or making a quote unquote hurtful experience, not that you're doing that with intent, but creating a hurtful experience at a young age, especially preschool or kindergarten, where they're pulled out of their educational environment and placed in another one, can have long-lasting effects. I'm looking out for my child and the other children involved in that aspect. So, yes, that's why I'm continuing to try and work and figure out how do we make this happen, because ultimately, as a parent, I'm trying to protect my child. And I'm trying to make sure that she is set up to have the best education possible, which I'm very confident she would get in this town. I don't want to start her off on a point where her entire elementary career is off kilter, because pulling her out and then trying to put her back into kindergarten in the same building becomes a difficult thing for her. I don't know that would happen, but it's a good possibility. So. That's why. I do appreciate that you keep letting me go back to the podium, by the way. I feel like I'm part of the group already.
Just don't tell your friends about this.
I won't.
And
it's not.
So we're going to go
YouTube
Lindsay
either.
and Jay, but one note, I did just text our ever-responsive mayor. He is not completely confident whether the contract was renewed by council, but he's going to check on that and let me know. So Lindsay, then...
I'm going to go back there again. If you need me, I know where you are.
So next to Councilman Emmanuel, so you don't have to walk as far. Lindsay.
I just want to say I really feel for you, and as a parent, I would be upset if you were told before September and you had time to go and look for different schools. I think that would be acceptable. But because he was told in September when his student was already enrolled, I don't know. If there was a way we can get that money, I think that's what we should be doing.
Thank you. Jay, then John. Lori, did you have your hand up? No. Jay, then John.
Yeah, I was going to echo that too. I mean, I think we own this a little bit. Regardless of how it happened, the fact that it happened, and I know budget is tight. $9,100 is 0.03% of our $30 million budget. Is not a necessarily material amount of money. And I think I'm probably the last person on this board who has the right now to offer an opinion as a lame duck, but I don't. It seems like we're making something here that there's nothing here. We just pay the money and be done with it. So, and that's just. I'm just throwing that out there into my market.
Yeah, and listen.
I like it. Yeah.
Listen.
It's not that easy.
No, but I mean, one outplacement that returns to Cromwell is dwarfs this. One outplacement that goes out of Cromwell dwarfs this. One teacher that we have to replace dwarfs this. This is not a huge amount of money, and I know it's a small amount of kids, but we hold AP classes for 5 or 6 kids, with a full teacher and a full period. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, please.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And if I knew that speaking with Ann Burke, she said, well, if we run out of money, we'll have to go to the town and ask for more this year. I said, absolutely not. I'm not a first-year superintendent going to the town and asking for more money. But on the same note, I do want you to know
And to be
that
clear,
right
the town's
now,
not going to give us more
right,
money.
exactly, and it's not going to be because of me. So we will eventually have a freeze.
But it's also not going to be because of this.
No. So let me tell you another.
If we have to go to the and Mrs. Burke is probably going to shoot me and punch me in the head, but if we have to go to the town for more money, it's not because of this.
No.
You know what I
Right
mean?
now, we have 12 students that are ESL, 3 of which speak no English at all, and we cannot afford an ESL teacher, and they only have 6 hours of tutoring, and I am scratching for every penny to get resources for these students who have come with very little resources. There was my understanding is that there was an ESL teacher at the secondary level. That person was let go. I have a facilitator it's like her 3rd year in, who's doing a position of someone that should be a very experienced person, who's providing ESL services to 41 students at ECS, one person. And WIS has a high number of students too, but then secondary has a tutor that's going over for about 19 hours to support a large amount of students, and that to me is a problem too. I'm not saying that Mr. Zabrowski's problem is any less important, but that's another one that I feel Carrie and I we're just mind boggles, and that worries me as well.
And you were going to
have a
mention
few
during your
other
update that we discovered that our interim super did not budget for the legal assistance for our 2 union negotiations that are going on now. Another healthy chunk of change.
So this year
all that dwarf
Last year, we spent $175,000 in legal fees. And this year, $50,000 was budgeted for legal fees, but that is only to cover what and that isn't even enough because we're still dealing with a lot of fallout. But to negotiate the teacher's contract and the, I believe it's Michelle, just correct me if I'm wrong, UPSU in the spring, not budgeted for whatsoever. So this is everything that I'm uncovering as we go along. And I'm not blaming anyone at all, but these are things that we're going to have to think about as we move forward.
And listen, I certainly respect the position. There's a reason why we're having this discussion after public comment. We normally would not, because I wanted to make sure the board had their say. You know, I certainly feel for Mr. Zabrowski. This was not the way the situation should have happened. My personal perspective, and I certainly respect, obviously, majority of the board wins, is I don't think it's the best use of resources for the board given the consequences here. And that, you know, it may be that, it will be that if we don't fund this, that these families are going to continue the challenges and they'll have to transition to another program that may not be ideal and they'll have to go through that transition. Which is not the ideal answer, fully appreciate that, but the $9,000 expenditure with all of the priorities we have as a board, I don't think it's the right use of funds, but I fully respect that the board may disagree as a majority, and yeah, it is what it is. John.
So, last question. This involves a contract that Park and Rec had with the YMCA, is that correct?
So we're assuming a contract, an agreement,
but
business
it's
deal. It was between Parks and Rec and
So
why?
why is this saddle only on us? The town has got a dog in this fight, and why are they not participating in this conversation?
I do not believe that they have left us stranded, and they were at the table when we had the discussion. But in the end, the conversation, who's going to come up with the $9,100? It wasn't made 100% clear to me that it would be the Board of Education, but I felt that it might be in the end. And so we could go back and have that conversation again with the town, but I'm not sure.
So I'm getting texts from the mayor, who's now having conversations with the town manager. Their understanding is that there was no direct contract between Rec and the Y, that they were just helping facilitate the arrangement.
Who wrote the checks?
I think my understanding is the checks would go directly from the families to the Y. Do you know?
Sure.
Where was that
We're
going?
paying Park and Rec.
Parks and Rec. Okay, so
in our agreement, all the stuff that we signed is actually with Park and Rec.
yeah, so it may just have been a kind of a it's going to sound a pass-through arrangement without any contract.
Exactly.
So, no, I got to tell you, as having sat on their side of the table for more years than I've sat here, it feels like the town is dumping its problem on our lap. And I have a problem with that. And I would be interested to know, our surplus was $4,700. I believe that the town's budget surplus was significantly higher than that. If this is a serious conversation, and this is a benefit that we have offered to members of this community in conjunction with our partners on West Street, why are our partners on West Street not at this meeting and discussing this?
Well, this was again not an agenda item. John. This
Understood,
came
but
at 3
I'm
o'clock, we
saying,
got an email.
and I get that, but I think that we can have a conversation further about this, because
Yeah, and
it's
to be
not at
clear-
all clear to me. It's not at all clear to me who's goring this ox, and I'm not entirely convinced
Who's
that goring this ox. Come on, Mike. My metaphor. I've had worse metaphors than that.
Yeah, and listen, I just want to be clear that in all of our, and I've not had most of the discussions, most of them haven't, I think the town has been very cooperative and tried to find a solution, working very hard over the last month to try to do that. Certainly spending a lot more time than I thought, and I'm happy that they did in trying to solve the problem. I'm happy to have Enza continue those with any of the information we have today, see if there's something else creative that we can talk about, talk to the families, see if there's some sort of co-funding or other arrangements. And, I trust Mr. Zabrowski when he says the other two families are still interested. I think we'd need to also talk to them to understand what the perspective is and see. So I'm happy to encourage that. Obviously, we're running up against the timeline for that. We don't have another meeting before then. It sounds to me, and I'll say it this way, because I don't know if there's any vote we need to take, because I don't think these transferred funds are up for play. So because I think those are for capital expenditure. So I don't think that's an issue. So I think the issue is, if we can get over the liability, contractual, whatever other hurdles we have, and we have 3 families still at the end of the day, I'm just playing this out here, 3 families still today who want to go down this road, and we've gotten over all the other hurdles, which I'm not 100% confident we can. But if we did, I think then it's the board's responsibility to say to Dr. Macri, listen, notwithstanding the advice we're getting, here's what we want to do. And if it's $9,100 or whatever the number, what's the number, 9,100, that we want to find it even if we have to sacrifice other expenses. And the reality is, given where we are with some of those other expenses, Dr. Macri will likely be coming back to us looking for us to cut something, whether it's a position or something at some point, because things are not looking good. If the board's comfortable with that, it's the majority of the board. So if the majority of the board is comfortable with that, just heads up that that's likely going to be what follows.
Was there a timeline for when people had to say, yes, I want this aftercare? Because the first day of school is when he found out that it was no longer available. It seems like they would have known before that. The families would have made a decision before that. So that, I don't understand.
Was there a deadline? You probably have the best. Do you know what the deadline for registering was? Would you mind coming up to the podium just so the 3 people on live streaming can hear you?
I feel special. This is my 4th time. I don't know the timeline exactly. There was definitely a deadline to submit your registration, to register for the pre-K program. The other part is I know that there had been problems in the past with the before and after care. There had been at one point that it wasn't going to be held, and then, as you mentioned, Park and Rec and the Y worked together to make it happen. I know a number of families actually said, well, because that happened in the past, we're worried, so we're not going to go. And we went to the information and asked the question, is there before and after care? Yes, there is. Great. My son had a great experience. We're on board. We love this school district. You guys do great work. We want our kid in your school.
If I may.
Yeah, please.
As part of the registration process, did you have to indicate an interest in before and after school care?
Yes, we had to register beforehand for before and after care.
Wait, say that question again, Jay?
As part of the registration process, did you have to indicate your interest in before and after school care?
Yes, we had to
On the same
register. We had to
registration
register for. I think they're 2 separate forms, but we did have to indicate.
But in that general time frame.
Yes.
You not only registered for preschool, you registered for after school care.
Correct. Well in advance.
We own this guy.
Selena, then John.
I just
Thank
think
you.
the timing is horrible that it would be on the first day of school, right? If it had been even a week before, but on the very first day that.
2 weeks before, a week before, we could. The thing was, we went to. We're educators. My wife is a school guidance counselor. I'm a special ed teacher. So we went and checked out all the other daycares. ECS hosts every year an early childhood education kind of symposium, where all the private providers, all the private preschools come. ECS is there as well, and it's it's a sales pitch. You're walking through, you're meeting the people. They're telling you why their program is the best. And there was a couple of other programs that we also really liked. We made the decision based on the before and after care, and we had if we had found out even a week. I mean, that'd be kind of pushing it, but like 2 weeks before school started, we would have pulled and registered at one of the other two places that we enjoyed. And honestly, we've been struggling with, we'd be more than fine going before and after care at another location if transportation could be arranged, and it really can't. And transportation is a really, really expensive item, so there's no way that's going to happen. Again, I also understand school budgets a little bit because I'm on the negotiations team for my local teachers union in Glastonbury, so I see it on both sides. I totally do. I just, day one, you can't tell me day one. You can't. I can't react. I have no option at that point.
John, well, and to be fair, you have options, they're just not ideal options.
Correct.
Yeah, they're, John.
So I move we amend the agenda to add item K under new business.
Well, I'd suggest we add the agenda item here, just so Mr.
I understand, we can
hang
take
around.
it, we can take it up, I'm just.
Yeah, we'll add it here,
And
assuming it gets approved.
And
So,
assuming it gets approved, and the item would be consider an act on a resolution authorizing the chair or his designee to negotiate this process with the town to determine an appropriate fiscal response.
yeah, and guys, thank you very much for bearing with us. So we have a motion from Mr. Flanders, and I just ask, would you mind amending that to be the chair or the super? I know you said designate.
I said,
just to make it
I
clear
will
that
let you
that's an acceptable
designate
designee.
anybody that you want. It certainly can be the superintendent.
We have a motion from Mr. Flanders. Is there a second?
No.
Lisa, what do you have there?
Mr. Flanders asked to have the chair or the super add to the agenda item to consider to negotiate with the town to determine appropriate fiscal response.
Yeah, and so we have a motion from John. Was that a second from Jay? Second from Jay. So my comment would be that, I think I support the motion. I fully appreciate this situation went poorly and was not the ideal. And it is clear to me that a majority of the board supports a allocation of funds if appropriate, if we can answer all the other questions, which again, acknowledging that may mean other expenses may go unhad, or we may have to have reductions, but fully appreciate that it's clear to me a majority of the board supports that. So we'll keep that in mind as we're doing that negotiation. Lori?
I don't know if this is the right time to ask this. Can we go back as part of what he's proposing? Can the families be contacted to see if that's something that they can incur? Is that part of what you're saying?
I think that's definitely a part of it.
See if they could absorb the expense?
Well, I think it's absolutely a part. I think the part of this discussion, because again, I think we've only heard from one other parent, but Mr. Zabrowski is the only one we've continued to hear from. So I think it's important that we make contact with all the parents to find out what their situation is. That could have changed today. Who knows? Okay. But it's, yes, I think that's part of this whole picture, is basically trying to see, is there, going back to the well with the guidance that the board is comfortable with the allocation of funds if all the other pieces can get worked out and if we can figure out how to address it.
So let me be clear. If it's a choice for $9,000 for these guys for the preschool and not having an ESL teacher for the 41 kids who need an ESL teacher, I'm sorry, but the 40 versus 3, that's a no-brainer in my head. But we're not alone. I do not believe that we are alone in responsibility in this, and I don't believe that that this board and our budget are alone in needing to address the potential cost in this, and I'm pretty sure that the town's budget surplus was significantly higher than $4,700. So,
yeah, no, fair.
From my perspective, I'm hearing them say no in a quiet room in a meeting and expecting us to say no in front of the camera and the public, and that ain't right.
Yeah, and to be fair, John, I think as you know from your time in the town, that the arrangements between the town and the board don't follow neat contracts. There's not, detailed. So the situation that I'm hearing sounds very realistic, very much like when I worked for the town and when you were first selectman of the town. So it's, I want to be clear that we're not faulting the town here. I think things went wrong all around here, and certainly lots of blame. I don't for a moment doubt any of that. Does anyone disagree with my characterization of my perception of the board's position?
I would just say, I mean, I appreciate your comment, John, but I see the two as somewhat separate. Budgets are fluid and budgets move all the time, and there's a lot of things that move the needle one way or the other. And so, I don't think this is predicated on another thing happening. Or not happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you can't look at them in a vacuum, Jay.
Understood. You can't look at them, but I mean,
because we can't do what you said, which is it's 0.0 plank of the budget that we can find that, no question. That's it's not as simple as that. It's also not as black and white as it's going to be A or B. It's the very gray middle.
Fair, but we have a very large budget, and this is a very, very small amount of that budget.
Yeah, one that got cut and one that already has a lot of unexpected costs, and we're in the third month of the year.
Understood.
But your point's well taken.
Things change.
Yeah.
Things change. I mean, there's
Agreed.
a reason that we spent so much in legal fees last year. And,
Agreed.
We're all aware of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I am not aware that we anticipate spending that much again this year because we don't have those same circumstances.
The good news is your replacement board member comes in at a lower salary, so we'll save some money there. Lori?
There's a lot of fallout.
I just want to be clear. So we're just voting on whether you're going to look into it with the town and look into the families. We're not saying that if it doesn't work out, we're going to give the $9,000. We haven't gotten to that, but that would be another vote at a later.
And I don't think, frankly, I don't know that it needs to be a vote. We don't typically. This is not something we typically vote on. We are basically giving the superintendent the board's perspective, because up until now it's been my perspective as the chair, which is certainly typical and normal. We're giving the board's perspective, given the unique circumstances that the board has a different perspective. That's what Dr. Macri should keep in mind as she's trying to figure out the best solution here. So we don't need to come back for vote. Dr. Macri, I think, is empowered with, under the vote, assuming the motion passes, with conversations with me to figure out if we can make something work.
Do you mind? I think all of you were all there when I got hired. And I'm going to do everything that I can, and I've been doing everything that I can. But we are about to do a presentation. I live and breathe equity for all students. I have students with special needs, and I say they're not mine, they're all of yours, that don't have all the mental health supports. I have students that should be receiving ESL that are not getting services that I believe they should be getting in our district. And I have CHRO and complaints that I am dealing with that are all fallout still. And I can't get into the personnel issues that are the fallout as well from all of this. So I promised you that I would always be candid and honest, and equity is 100%. I live and breathe and die by equity. I will do the absolute best I can. I feel that I have done the absolute best that I can, but in the end, there are a lot of things that, as we start to go through the budget, and I show you, and Ann shows you, and we'll have a very detailed explanation and detailed presentation for you to see how we are using our money. Some of the things have been very
I have another
worrisome.
Another
Okay.
update. So, and,
I just
thank
want you to know
our-
that.
Thank you to our mayor and town manager for responding in real time here. So the situation, as is being explained from a text from the mayor, is that before this program was kicked off, Mr. Maloney, our prior superintendent, approached the town. So in order to run this program in conjunction with the Y, the Board of Ed would need to get a license, which it does not have. Seeing that the town already has the license through their rec program, John asked if the board could run through their program through the rec department, with the understanding between Tony and John that it was really the board's program and not the town's. And we were facilitating the benefit of using that license. But we'll follow up on that nonetheless. Okay, any other comments, questions on this? Otherwise, listen, at the end of the day, this is, Dr. Macri will figure out the right decision, but she certainly has the feedback from the board on the important perspectives and concerns. And, I reiterate to Mr. Zabrowski and all the other families impacted, regardless of where this decision comes out, we are certainly sorry this situation happened the way it is, and a lot of valuable lessons have been learned about how to more effectively communicate about these things. So regardless of where this comes out, you have my sincere apologies on behalf of the board. You may.
I do want to thank all the time you took on this. I know that this was not an agenda item. I know that I've given my 3 minutes, and I know I've gone way over that. But I do want to thank all the time you put into this and all the consideration. I want to apologize to the students who are sitting here throughout this whole thing. I feel so bad for you guys. You have homework to do. I have homework to do. There's school tomorrow. We got lots to go on. So
it's a good learning experience.
It is a very good learning experience. It is. May I ask what grade you guys are in? Senior in high school? Junior? 8th grade? I teach 8th grade. 8th grade. Excellent. I love to see you guys here participating in this. This is fantastic. Thank you. I really appreciate your consideration. And
Dr. Mack will be back in touch.
Yep, I appreciate it. As of now, the program is ending on November 1st, before
That's correct.
Jay
And we still
leaves,
do have a motion on the floor and seconded. Any other comments,
Thank you.
questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries unanimously. Okay. Thank you. So, guys, welcome. So, this is the kind of thing you can remember in your civics class, your social studies class, and when I was telling everyone before to get out to vote, this is why, because these are the kind of issues that hit closest to home. What happens in Congress and in Washington doesn't necessarily have as much direct impact as what you kind of things you see happening here tonight. So, don't forget this meeting as much as you may want to, or go to sleep. But this is democracy in its best form. So, who's kicking us off? Oh, introduction. So B is kicking it off. So B, welcome back to the podium.
Thank you. Being 23 years into being student council advisor, I felt it's very important for me to introduce our Board of Ed representatives. They do more than what they just being here tonight. So therefore, I will first introduce our junior Board of Ed member, Hunter Voice. He is, as I said, the class of 2021. He is taking UConn Calculus, AP English, and U.S. History, Chemistry, French, and Spanish. He is treasurer of the Unity Club. He's part of the Gay Straight Alliance, the World Language Club, was president of his class for 2 years. He is also outside a counselor in training at Camp Ingersoll and walks with the Food Share Walk Against Hunger. He will be inducted at the end of this month to the National Honor Society. For college and major interests, he's looking at linguistics, and he's looking at McGill University in Montreal, Canada. What I'd like to tell you, I asked them to tell me something about themselves. Hunter would like to write a book. So I'd like to introduce you to Hunter Voice, your junior Board of Ed representative this year.
Initial question. So why McGill? And secondly, what's the book going to be about other than tonight?
I think it's going to be about exclusively tonight. I certainly have enough to fill up at least a book. I was looking at McGill because it's in Montreal, and I mentioned that I do take French. I do speak French. Montreal is a French city. It really attracted me to it.
Excellent. Yeah, no, we have an office up in Longueuil outside of Montreal. A lot of kids go to McGill. It seems to be the beloved school up there. Excellent. B, back to you.
Thank you. Moving up to our senior Board of Ed representative is Clara Rojas. She is the class of 2020. She is taking capstone AP Stats and Spanish, Sociology, English, Sign Language. Her outside activities, besides being your Board of Ed rep, is indoor and outdoor track, participating in the triple jump, social activism, World Language Club, National Honor Society, National Spanish Honor Society, the Carbon Club, and Unity Club. Her plan is to go to college in Puerto Rico. She would like to be an infertility, doctor and major in pre-med. So I turn them over and welcome to Claire as your senior Board of Ed member.
Welcome back. So a particular school in Puerto Rico that you have your eye on?
Yeah, so it's one of like the bigger schools. So it's the University of Maya West, and it's it's like western, like an hour away from San Juan.
Yep.
So it's also where my mom went. So yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, welcome back. Happy to have both of you here, but certainly happy to have you back again. Who's going to start?
You first.
Okay, can we bring the mic over there, Paulo, so we can and make sure that red light's on?
Okay.
Perfect.
CMS fall sports are off to a great start. Yesterday, the girls' soccer team played Colchester and won 7-0. Goals were scored by Cameron Hickey, Olivia Shaler, Katie Barber, McKenna Mann, Victoria Widetrack, and Sabrina Pereira.
Paulo, would you mind pulling the microphone a little closer to you if you could?
Oh. Okay.
Thank you.
2 weeks ago, they also played East Hampton and won 6-3. Goals were scored by Katie Barber, Cameron Hickey, Olivia Fortenbach, Olivia Shaler, McKenna Mann, and Lauren McCarroll. The boys lost their first game on Friday against Middletown. Matt Kenny scored 2 goals. The final score was 2-1. The boys had another game today against Durham today, which they lost 5-0. Good luck to both teams for future games. Cross country also had a meet against East Hampton. The male top runner was Nazir Andre from Cromwell, and the female top runner was Caroline Phillips, also from Cromwell.
Thank you, Paulo.
Mr. Mateus and his students have new robots for the STEM robotics class. Along with the newly designed room, students now have more room for creating, testing, and driving robots. The students are looking forward to a great year with all new equipment. Student Council has kicked off its second Socktober fundraiser. The students of CMS during the month of October are encouraged to bring in new and unused socks to donate to the Cromwell Youth Services. Students should bring in their donations to their 8th period class. The 8th period class with the most socks wins a prize.
Very nice. Yeah, and Mr. Latwinzik has promised us some pictures of the new STEM room. We heard about it at our facilities meeting before this. So, is there anything particularly cool about the new STEM room?
It's just so much, like, there's more room now. Like, all the cabinets and everything is just moved out of the way where we have plenty of room to drive the robots. Before we had, like, this tiny little square, and it's like, if you press the wrong button, you're against the wall, so.
Yeah, because it used to be a home ec room, I think someone was saying, that so not really built for what it is. So I'm glad. Sounds like some very good improvements. Thank you, guys.
This November, students will audition for roles in the upcoming show Beauty and the Beast. The 6th graders are very excited for a new experience, while the 7th and 8th graders have been anxiously waiting for the show. It literally couldn't have come here any quicker. Students have been practicing their audition songs with the song tracks in Google Classroom.
Mr. St. Ange and Mr. Lekowitz hosted their annual Source to Sea cleanup last week. They had a great turnout, and many students and adults participated by going down to the Connecticut River to pick up garbage. One student said it was a great experience in which we helped rehabilitate the environment. Another student says it was really fun and they enjoyed cleaning up the trash with their friends.
So I'm guessing at least one of you are applying for auditioning for Beauty and the Beast. Are both of you? One of you? Both of us. Awesome. Very awesome. I bet this is going to be an awesome play. A lot of your friends looking to audition too?
Yes.
It is so cool how many kids audition every year for things at the middle school and high school there. So good luck to you guys. Break a leg. Not good luck, just go break a leg. Because I know good luck is bad luck. Okay, to the high school.
Open house was on September 11th. 60% of the freshman parents attended, 40% of the sophomore parents, 42% of the junior parents, and 28% of the senior parents. Many juniors joined the National Honor Society. They attended their first meeting on Thursday. The induction ceremony is on October 30th. Also, they'll be selling chocolates from Munson's Chocolates starting on the 21st through the end of October. The orders will arrive before the holidays. And they had a $50 minimum to meet. And I haven't met mine yet, so if you want to buy chocolates.
Oh, well done. Well played. Well played.
I should have brought it.
Hunter, 2 of our members are up for re-election, so they may be willing to buy quite a bit of chocolate.
How much are the chocolates?
Some students took the SAT on Saturday. They'll get their scores back on the 18th. Students auditioned for the high school's spring musical, Mamma Mia, last week, and the cast list, I believe, came out on Friday. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors are preparing for the PSAT on October 16th. Some students are taking the ACT on the 26th. They should get their scores back around Thanksgiving. The Unity Club is sending 15 representatives to the Connecticut Youth Forum on October 22nd. This forum will be about identifying conflict and finding resolution. Last week, the World Language Club painted their scarecrow for Halloween. The Social Activism Club had its first meeting last week. They're planning service events throughout the school year. The Literary Magazine is holding a Halloween writing contest currently. The Carbon Club had its first meeting last week. Their aim is to reduce the school's carbon footprint. The Gay Straight Alliance had its first meeting last week. The Student Council helped organize Picture Day on the 27th. Yearbook orders are now open. Band and chorus students are selling pies to help raise funds for their Six Flags trip in New Jersey. The Student Council helped out at the ECS and WIS open houses. And near the end of the month, Project Grad will be handing out butter braids from their fundraiser. The Student Council is getting sports teams and clubs to help with Trick or Trunk on October 19th. And Nick Wolak has been helping Mr. Fisk with the new scoreboard graphics for Pearson Park.
Clara.
There was a staff dress down day at the school. Staff wore all of their college gear. This was last week. Seniors only have a few weeks left to submit their senior photos to the yearbook club, as well as their baby pictures are due November 1st. They are leaving for their senior trip on October 14th and will return on the 17th at night from Washington, D.C. Buses as well as chaperones were assigned last week. They also painted the shed on September 29th, and the theme was Peace Out. So I have a picture you guys can see. So on to sports. The fall cheerleaders will be competing in game day on Thursday, October 17th. They are selling cowbells at home games. The girls volleyball team is having a great season. Their current record is 11-2. They had a game yesterday, and their next one is Friday at North Branford. The Hartford Current nominated Sadie Budzik for the Girls Athlete of the Week. The results aren't in yet, but they should be in by tomorrow. Boys and girls had their cancer awareness game yesterday. The boys won 2-1. They currently have a record of 5 wins, 4 losses, and 2 ties. The girls also won their game, and they have a current record of 8-5. Their next home game is on Saturday at 12 p.m. against Westbrook. The football team sponsored Youth Day last Saturday, and they will have their cancer awareness game this Friday at 3. Varsity swim girls have an away meet at 3:45 on October 16th, and their season has been going well with Rocky Hill. And cross country has their mega meet this Thursday at home, and on the 18th, the day after we return from our Washington trip, they have their shoreline meet at home as well.
Do those handouts. I spent all the time printing those for you.
My bad, man. I got excited. So the sophomore class is having their fundraiser on October 18th at Ambrosia, where they will receive a portion of the profit that they make. So I have copies that Mr. Camilleri printed. You guys could take one because it only works if you guys hand in the flyer. So make sure to check that out.
Thank you very much, Clara. And it's, but it is, it's just a quick note, because we have so many good businesses, particularly the restaurants in town that regularly do these kind of events. So I'd encourage you, whether it's Ambrosia doing this one or the many other restaurants in town who support our schools, to do what you can to support them, not just on those nights when they're holding fundraisers for our schools, but to thank them for being such good community partners with folks like us. Any questions, comments for our student reps? Okay, guys, take your pumpkins and feel free to go home. No, you got a face. No. Thank you very much, guys, and again, appreciate your patience tonight. Okay, so just looking down the agenda for a moment, do we have any other big, lengthy agenda items other than that one, Enzo?
I think that's the biggest. And
Okay, so I'm going to entertain discussion on tabling 12B, the Smarter Balance and SAT data presentation. Certainly open to whatever the board wants to do, but I just want to be respectful to I don't want to rush that discussion, and given that it's already almost 8:45, I don't want to rush that discussion. So my suggestion would be to postpone until our November 12th meeting. Any major objections? And I know that Dr. Macri had mentioned some of the conversations she wanted to have about equity and where she thinks some of the spending priorities should go, that she wanted to hit that tonight, but I think we all appreciate where those are, and she appreciates our perspective on the other funds. So I don't know that that's here nor there for the purpose of this discussion. Carrie, Enzo, are you guys okay if we table that?
it's fine.
Board members, I'll entertain a motion to table it.
4 hours of work.
We have a motion and a second. Yeah, listen, I want to do it justice, and we won't do it justice. No, Selena's standing up.
Can I just a quick
Yep.
question? Item number 14C, setting the graduation date for next year?
Yes.
Really?
State law allows us to do it now, so we're.
But don't we usually wait until we know how many snow days we have?
Oh, you're ahead of the game, buddy. We're going to. I know this is like your last meeting, so we're going to do something fun. State law has changed, giving us some flexibility on giving parents some predictability around a graduation date.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about whether or not we want to do that. We may decide we don't want to. Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to table that agenda item. Any discussion on that? Thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian. Keep me honest. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. That item is tabled. Okay, Mr. Emmanuel, would you like to join us? Thank you for your patience as well, sir.
No problem.
And thank you for the pumpkins.
Oh, you're welcome. This on? Okay. So this is actually my last meeting. I'm retiring as of November after serving this town for 23 years, 12 years where you guys sit, 8 years on the council. I'll go through my report, and then my colleague wants to say a few words also. So on the town side, we're doing the Cromwell Arts District. As you know, the old highway department now has a mural on that. They're also going to be doing a mural down at the water pumping station down at the Frisbee Park Landing, which would be in the summertime to do that. The town, in doing that, that structure is structurally sound, so the townspeople can use it. So that's a good thing. The highway department is being built right now on County Line Road, where we're going to actually put the highway department there as well as the transfer station there also. And back of that, you saw that 400,000 square foot building, which is now going to have a new tenant coming in. Again, they were paying taxes, just had to find a tenant, that's all. Kmart Plaza has now been full. If you've been up there, you have ShopRite, you have Marshalls, and around the corner you have the massage school. Up on 372, you have a new building going next to Liberty Bank. That's going to be a brand new hotel that we're doing right now, as well as downtown, and the old hairstyling place across from Knights Columbus is going to become a new ice cream place. So our vision for the town is to build our downtown through the Arts District to make sure that becomes vibrant. People want to go to the water. On this past September 26th, at the Mayor's Gala, Mrs. Polk and Mr. Polk were recognized for their service, as well as Richard Donahue. I was very honored, and so was my colleague, Mr. Newton, for our years of service. Mr. Newton has outdone me at 45 years. I've only had 30 years, so I'm a little behind him. A few years difference. The last thing I want to say, and then bring up Pete, is I want to thank Jay, who was on the board actually when I was here already. He got a little younger when he got here, and then also Paul and Mr. Camilleri. I appreciate you guys and what you guys did. and also the people serving on this board. I think people don't realize how much of a thankless job it is when you get hammered because you're trying to make the right decisions for all the kids, not just your kids.
Could you put a little sunnier spin? We have 2 candidates for the board also in the audience, so it's not exactly helpful.
They know what's going on. They know what's going on. The spin is, listen to me, it's about the town. When you come up there and it's about every kid. And that's what I'm going to tell you right now. On the town council side, it's bittersweet again, but it was great serving you guys as liaison. But again, it's important that more people get involved. That's what we've always been said. This is not my town, it's our town. And the thing is that all issues are important. And tonight we heard some issues, but the thing is that, again, it's communication. That's what we're talking about. And it's on both sides. When we set our budget, we go through line items. We hammer each department to make sure they come in lean. And with the surplus, it goes back to our town to make sure that, like our library, is going to be paid off. You don't have to pay one single dime coming out of our budget to bond that. So a lot of this stuff is done ahead of time to make sure we're using your money wisely, and we're not using it foolishly. And to be rated AAA again for I believe it's the 8th straight year. Mrs. Silvestri, our director of finance, has done a wonderful job. And if you look at the town hall, what they've done down there too for the library, senior services, please go take a look at that. I think I've also mentioned it to Ms. Rojas here, is it's important for the kids to know the seniors in this town and to know back and forth. That means they can teach each other. There's smart pads down there that the seniors don't know what to do with. These kids can help them out, and then vice versa, they can go down there and help them out also at the schools. So it's really going to be that way. So I want to thank you guys for the years of service to this town. I appreciate what you guys do. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Yakman.
Before you do, Frank, if I could just briefly acknowledge you and your service. Obviously, you were on the board well before I was, and we got to serve together, and you have been a dedicated community servant. And always these nice touches. I remember when you were on the board, you'd bring like chocolates and things at the holidays. So just a classy guy who always has the best interests of the community at heart. And the town's better for your years of service, and we'll certainly miss having you around. I'm sure you'll find ways to torture us otherwise. But
I'll still be around. I'll just be in the back. I'll just be in the back.
It's been a pleasure having you, and on behalf of the Board of Ed and our entire community, I congratulate you on your retirement from public service. Mr. Fletcher.
Frank, you and I started on the board together. I started on the board after you were already on the board, and I viewed you as a mentor. You helped me through those first years. They were much different years than they are now.
Yes, they are.
They're much different years. I think the board is in good shape under the current leadership of the current administration, and so I just wanted to say thank you to you personally, and I wish you well in your retirement from public service.
Thank you. My mentor, Mr. Jan, this year turns 90.
Wow.
Bob Jan?
Yeah. So he's my mentor when I got on this board, just to let you know that. Wow. Just to give you a heads up.
Thank you.
Mr. Gagnon.
Phil Gagnon, 13 Harrison Drive.
Welcome back to the Board of Ed.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to have you here.
I came out of retirement for a night. So I was here, many of you know me, I was here from 2011 to 2015. Before that, I served on the Charter Revision Commission. And one of the persons I'd like to thank tonight is Jay Fletcher. I came here, Jay. I came in 2011 with no gray hair, and I left with a lot of gray. Maybe not as much as you. And by the way, I was very fond of saying that the meetings always went more smoothly when you were sitting in for Mike.
Yeah, he was one of them.
So we all understand that civic responsibility is something very, very important. And I came out of the business world as a partner of a large commercial real estate firm in Hartford to serve the town, and I feel like it was the best time, one of the best times in my life. And let's be clear, volunteer work and what you've done, Jay, you've done it at its best. You've done it at its best, or very, very close to the best that it can be done. So thank you for your patience, Jay. The thoughtfulness, mid-afternoon runs, camaraderie, and 4 years. Thank you. I appreciate that. I got some of my best advice from you when we were hoofing it on a 3rd mile. And you said, Phil, just don't bring it up tonight. So, I think I speak for many in the community that to put 16 years in is incredibly, it's almost an insurmountable task. I mean, I've taken 4 years outside of the Board of Ed community just to recover, but it was some of the happiest and most. I mean, there's many things in my life I can be thankful for, and I've talked to Mike plenty about this. But the 4 years, and especially for the folks running there, you'll never forget it. So, put all your effort in, give it 100% like Jay. Use him as a role model, and you'll be successful, and this board will be for the town. Thank you.
You're here. Ah, Lord have mercy. Thank you, Phil. And echo it completely. Well said. Okay. Where the hell are we? Superintendent's updates. Dr. Macri.
They were going to be short because our presentation was going to be long, so I'll spare you. And we have been noticing, obviously, we are using certified teachers, and we've talked a little bit about this, who don't necessarily have a classroom. They're coaches, they're specialists to cover classrooms. We also are using teachers, and that's happening more at the elementary level. At the secondary level, we are using teachers where they're giving up their planning time, and then we have to pay a coverage fee. So at this point, we feel that it's more economical that we have a building sub at every school. It may end up that in the future we're only 6 weeks out and projections are just getting done. I am proposing that we go ahead and hire a building sub for every school, and that building sub will report to that school every single day, and they'll help with
And
testing.
I just want to clarify one thing. You're not proposing, you're doing.
Oh yeah, I'm doing. Okay, so I'm doing it.
Doesn't require our approval.
I believe it will. In turn, it does. It'll save the district money, but it's also in the best interest of our students to have someone who is there that they know and can continue the lesson because they actually get to know the students and they become part of the staff. So it has worked out incredibly well in my past life and as well here, and it did get
Do you know
cut.
why we stopped? Was it why we stopped doing it here?
My understanding was it was part of the budget cuts, but in the end, it really
It was
didn't.
a short-sighted decision.
Yeah, it wasn't really part of it, and it wasn't because of. I'll make it very clear. It was not because of Mrs. DiFiore. There is an understanding that if you hit 3 different, and I don't have me mention them to you right now because I can't, it's part of certification. 3 different parts of certification, and if you're working under those 3, you are then you're a certified teacher, and we have to pay you as if you are a certified teacher. That does not matter for building subs because you don't have to be a certified teacher to be a building sub. You have to have a degree. We are also able to, and Ms. DeMoro is going to apply for it. If you have an associate's degree, if you are in college, and I believe you are a sophomore, we have to submit all of your paperwork to the State Department of Education. And let's say you have a Friday off because you're not in school, and we feel that you're responsible enough, and we go through the interview process, you can then also sub as well. So that's how we're going to build that sub pool. But the nice piece is the relationship piece with having a building sub and knowing that I'm not going to spend all that money on coverage every day, and that we're not. So it's twofold too. The people who are the specialists are serving as they service students with their greatest need, and they're being pulled, and that right there is, it's not a good thing. So that's what we're going to be doing. We'll hire 1 building sub per school, and then in a few months look at it again and see, are there more people that are absent at one school versus another. We're also addressing and having conversations about absenteeism with everyone, because there may be something going on in their life that we can possibly help them with. So that's happening too at the same time. But for now, we need building subs, so I'm going to hire 4. I told the principals to go ahead and hire them tomorrow if they can find them. So that's that. The other area, Cromwell has not been highly involved in United Way. My meeting with Kevin Wilhelm, who is the director, and a few other two board members who actually are parents of Cromwell students. We haven't been involved, highly involved. We have one staff member participating in the campaign. So, believe it or not,
But we do receive funding from United Way.
that's exactly my point. My understanding, and what I understand, is that our staff does not understand just how much United Way really does support Cromwell Public Schools and Cromwell, the city, the town of Cromwell in general. So, just for example, United Way has been working with Middlesex, with Cromwell for over 80 years. 677 Cromwell residents benefited from Middlesex United Way initiatives and programs provided by our funding partners, such as education, income. Preschool is, we get grant money for United Way money for our preschool program. Housing, Middlesex County Coalition for Housing. We use 211 often in the schools. It's a toll-free statewide help line that operates 24 hours a day. We have accessed that 520 times. I'm not saying it's all from the schools, but it's definitely from Cromwell. And it helps with mental health, addictions, housing and shelter, employment, and income. To me, this was really, and under health, there are so many ways that they support, reduce the rate of risky behaviors among our youth. They work with the Connecticut Rivers Council, the Boy Scouts, the YMCA, the Girl Scouts of Connecticut, Rushford Mental Health, First Aid, and then to improve health and increase the safety of individuals and families. Gilead Community Services, even though it's in Middletown, Cromwell benefits as well. MARC, which is a Community Resources Adult Skill Development, Middlesex Hospital prenatal programs, and programs that support women and families. To me, this one is huge. ALICE, which is an acronym for Assisted Limited Income Constrained Employed Residents. So we have a lot of, to put it in layman's words, in terms, we have a lot of working poor in Cromwell that we don't necessarily know about or talk about that often. 21% of Cromwell residents are residents of ALICE. So I would like to bring back the campaign pledge to the district, and I just want you to know about it. I met with the administrators today. We're going to have captains at all of the schools. I have the Cromwell parents and Board of Education, Board of Education is always in my head. Everyone's on the Board of Education. The board for United Way, they're going to come out and meet with every faculty for about 10 to 15 minutes about how Cromwell does benefit. And if we can increase, I said, if I already know we're going to increase it by, 100, 200% with Carrie, myself, and Michelle, because we know everything that Cromwell United Way does for our families. So staff members will get to participate if they would like to, and they make a decision as to how they'd want to give. So we are going to have a Cromwell United Way campaign. It will run from November 1st to right before Thanksgiving. And if you wish to give, that would be wonderful. But we are at this point asking our staff to participate. So I just wanted to fill you in on that.
Thank you.
It's really great work. I love it. And so our equity work, so we are addressing this on 3 different levels. So I talk about equity. In this case, we talk about equity, racial equity. I don't have to reiterate the issues and concerns that we've had as a community. Not just a school community, but as a community. And the best thing that has happened is that Tony Salvatore and Enzo Fienza and Michael Camilleri promise,
Bonnie.
and Bonnie, yes,
Yep.
Bonnie from HR coordinator for the city, said that they would like to have a conversation with Dr. Gerald Hairston, who's working with our staff, will be working with our staff members, and Gloria Menguel, they're both from CREC, she's working with our students, to talk about how are we addressing equity and racial equity and starting those conversations at the community level. So we had a meeting yesterday, oh my gosh. was it
Yesterday.
Yes, I
Yeah.
get confused with days. It was an excellent meeting. Mike, do you agree?
Oh,
Chairman
it
Camilleri,
was
do you agree?
it was incredible. I was Doctor. It's Doctor, right?
Yeah, it's Dr. Hairston, yes.
Hairston was just incredible. Just one of the most simultaneously authentic and dynamic guys that I've really ever met. And by the time the meeting was done, I just wanted to give him a hug.
We did.
Like
We hugged.
He was a very good listener. He heard what we were, kind of the experiences we had, the observations we had about the community, and all the good things as well as some of the challenges. And it was great just watching him. He'd pause and clearly processing it all, and then have these kind of insights and observations. And I think he. One of the things he said that I really liked was he said the key to success in this field is you have to meet people where they are. And I think sometimes when we do these efforts, they don't. And they end up failing and, in fact, backfiring. And I think he's very, very cognizant of that and cognizant of how he could take all the things that are really very good about our community to improve the things that we can continue to focus on improving.
Yes, I agree. So he will be working with the community at large. He is working with, we're starting small, so we're starting at the high school with training teachers, and eventually the teachers will become trainers of other teachers, and we'll work our way through the middle school and then through WIS and ECS, or depending on where we feel our needs are next. This is not a one-year plan. This is a 2, 3, 4-year plan, however long it takes for us to continue and get to where we need to be.
When the time's right, and I think it'd be very good for him to come before the board and kind of share what he's
would
done,
love
because
that.
I think it'd be good to hear it firsthand from him. For the board.
Yes, absolutely, and he would love that, and he has asked for that, and I said, yeah, sure, they'd love to hear from you. He is expecting, so he's not. His wife is expecting, so he'll be unavailable just for about a month or so, but we are getting everything going, and he is doing our first opening professional development day with the high school on October 18th. So those are some really great things that are happening, and just, I love the word exciting because I do get really passionate about everything. And then we have just some news that you've heard of earlier, slight concerns. It's still early in the year. I've worked with a $90 million budget plus $30 million grant budget. $30 million seems like a lot of money. It goes very quickly when we have students, when we have to service all of our students and transportation costs and everything else. I am going through the budget with a fine-tooth comb with Ann Burke. I have Michelle looking at certified. I have staff and non-certified looking at all of our staff and how we're spending our money. I have Carrie looking at how are we spending our money with curriculum. And the sad truth right now, if you look at our budget, 85% goes towards the salary and benefits. That's normal, no matter where you are. And then when I looked at quickly, but I need to break it down a little bit more. Curricularly, there's a $7,000, with the exception of professional development, that we are contributing to resources, and we need resources. And that is concerning to me because we're a school system, and we're here to teach. Sari has done an excellent job with trying to keep costs down in special education with following the law, and I have really stuck my nose into transportation as much as I can, just because of the relationships that I've had. And we've made some really great strides with complaints on Facebook as far as getting the bus routes changed and fixed without it costing us any money. Because in the end, a lot of the solutions are, yes, we can fix that, but it's going to cost you $250 a day times how many days you have left, and we don't have that kind of money. So the administrators have been excellent with really looking at how we're spending our money. There is no freeze. I do not like freezes, but at this point right now, with and like I said earlier, their personnel matters and CHRO complaints, which we won't get into too much because I can't. But they are going to cost us money, and the fallout continues. So I'm just hoping that the end, that I kind of see the end. I'm hoping, because every day I wake up and I open an email like this Sunday and I go, what? So we will deal with them as they come. So that's the not so great news, but it's part of being a school system, and it is what it is. And we will work with them and continue to work together. That is, again, I've made it to all the schools. I've had individual meetings with teachers. I've had group meetings with teachers, administrators. I loved that one of our custodians came in and said to me, I'm here to talk to you about mental health and how it affects our students. And I just wanted to get up and hug her. In her past life, she was a social worker, though. But it was just amazing, the conversations that we have had. We're moving in a great direction. It's just going to take some time. I today asked the administrators at leadership team. We went over a lot of things and structures and systems that we need to create. And I just keep asking them, is this too much? Tell me if it's too much, too fast, because I don't want them to get burnt out. And they're like, no, this is good. Keep it coming. we need these procedures in place. So I am very cognizant of making sure that we move forward in a manageable way. And so far, so good. And I wanted to just say that as far as EEE, the virus, right?
Yep.
Make sure.
Yes.
So I have not spoken to all of you about it, and I haven't even spoken to I'm dealing directly with the health department. We do have an area where mosquitoes are tested in Cromwell, so they are tested every day, and there are none that have been infected, and there have been no people in Cromwell. That doesn't mean that there could be, because we have plenty of wetlands. So what working in collaboration with the health department, and Sal Nesci and I are on the phone, and he speaks to his boss, Wes, 2 to 3 times a week. And if we need to change anything as far as games and scheduling, and
Like
we
we
have
moved at least
had-
one football game from a Friday night to a Saturday.
and that was
2 of them?
2, and that was at the request of the other district, because they have restrictions. So it's worked in our benefit because we were able to play, but nothing at this point has changed. And Cromwell's end, we are in great standing, and I just continue to have those conversations. I text Sal every day. Has anything changed? Do I need to do anything? He said, no, we're good. Stick to the way you're doing, what we're doing. And then you may have noticed the flu clinic signs. Sal Nesci and Pam Grandy, our new nurse supervisor. We are offering flu shots to our staff, and that's something we haven't done in a long time. So we're really working together with the town to bridge some of the services that we can provide to our staff.
Good reminder on the flu shot, too.
Yes.
Thank you. Questions? John, is that a question? Question. Go ahead.
A quick question. You talked about some CHRO issues. I noticed that we have an executive session listed for this meeting. Item
security strategy.
Yeah,
Yes.
can we amend that to get a little bit of an update on anything that we might need to have an update on?
So here's my one. I don't mind doing it at all, except for that is definitely Michelle DeMaro's wheelhouse, HR, and I want to make sure that I don't share anything that I'm not supposed to
fair.
share with you, because I am a rule follower.
So let's. So here's what we'll do.
We can do it
Let's
next time.
Yeah, let's talk to her and Yeah, let's do that, because I don't want to screw that up.
I don't
Okay,
wanna mess that
that's
up.
fine.
But fair.
I'm asking,
Yes.
and I want the record to show that I was speaking without disapprobation about executive session.
I know.
It's late, you're tired. I'll cut you some slack. Okay, so I'm just going to make a note here. Let's just, for the November 12th, we can add a discussion of, let's say, pending claims for
Yes,
executive
so that you all
session.
know. And lastly, it's only been a few months, but I have very much enjoyed working with Megan and Jay. And Jay, I would love to be your friend, but I already feel like I'm Megan's friend.
A lot of people have that same reaction.
I would love to. I think we would fight a lot, but that might be a good thing. But it just
really
like
am a nice guy.
no, you are. That's all I heard. But again, you were both a big part in hiring me, like Fran said, and I appreciate that, and I thank you for entrusting again our students. You entrusting our students with me and the decisions that I make with your support. And I just wish you the best, and I wish you weren't leaving. So take care of your families and do great things. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, and I will acknowledge that we have seen all three of our candidates at various board meetings who aren't on the board. Two of them are here tonight, but we've seen all three at some meetings, which is certainly a very good sign, because we don't always see that with candidates. They don't always come to our board meetings. And so, to Catherine, Dipti, and Jen, thank you guys for coming and kind of showing that, showing your interest by being here. It's important. So, and special to Jen and Catherine here tonight. Okay, so any other questions for Enza? Okay.
So my updates, I just want you to know again.
Yes.
I did send those updates on Friday.
The one you got today,
you got
she
it
sent
today.
on
Did
Friday.
And you got it twice.
Did anybody get it?
twice? I only got it today. It's the craziest thing. I sent it. So Tommy's looking into it for me, because I had said to Mike, he commented, and I said, did you just get this today? I did send it on Friday, so I'll find out what's going
But
on.
it
with
does
my
show
email.
when you look at it. It shows
Yeah, it
that
says
it was
11:12.
sent
I
today.
was in the middle of a meeting when I
Yeah.
looked at the time, and I went, I was in the middle of a leadership team meeting. I said, I didn't send this.
Good
So-
multitasking.
Yeah, that was great. I did. It was done last week.
Okay, so Ann is not with us tonight, but a fairly simple request for a transfer for the into the capital account fund for the purpose of continuation of air conditioning projects at CMS. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? Any comments or questions? Where did John go? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Mr. Flanders? Okay. No old business, new business. Welcome a motion for approval of the minutes and motions from our September 10th meeting. Is there a second? Seemed like a hard one. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstention from Miss Midgley and Mr. Flanders, Mrs. Midgley and Mr. Flanders. Okay, approval of the school calendar, and you'll see this is separate from the graduation date that we were just talking about with Jay. So the approval of the school calendar for 2020-2021 found in reference D of your packets. We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second, so we'll now have discussion. Comments, questions, concerns, complaints? You know, the last two calendar votes have gone exactly like this. Before they were like 3-hour discussions, but I think we got it nailed now. Okay, so we have a motion. Oh.
Just a question. I don't know where this stands, but a couple years ago there was a move to the state calendar. Is this the state calendar, or has that gone away?
So it's kind of gone away a little bit, because it was really difficult for people to make it all happen. We do try to align with CREC to the best of our ability, but we have leeway on days that we could and we can't, and we took advantage of those leeways.
And it ends up, and you probably know, having a school employee in your house, I think February and April don't always line up perfectly with other, and you can't, because they don't all line up with each other.
That was I'll have you know, that was a very big conversation with the administrators, and I said, let's have April break the week later, and then we looked at each other and we said, that really isn't fair to families, but we would get cheaper flights to Florida. And we all said, but that really wouldn't work for our families, so we'll go back to the traditional week.
So is this week the week that most schools?
For the most part, yes, they do. We looked into it. I looked into it, even though I was like, but geez, everybody would save money. But that would be the wrong thing to do.
I think
you'd be on board. I know.
So I do think most do it that, but I think there is a very healthy chunk that do it the week before, so it follows Good Friday.
Yes,
and falls
and
right in.
because of the semesters and the way it went
Yeah.
it was just too soon, so
Yep.
we went to the next
Yeah.
one.
Yes, Lori.
So I'm just looking at the first day of school. So I know we always start on the last Wednesday in August. So sometimes it just lands funny. So like usually we have the first day of school on. Am I saying something funny?
No, no.
Oh, okay. No, I'm looking at Mike. He looks. So usually we have it starts on Wednesday, and then that weekend is Labor Day weekend, and then we go back to school, and then we like ease until we have the 3 days. Then we go have Labor Day weekend. Then we go back to school. Megan, you're nodding. So you know what I mean. Then you have.
Immediately, I was like, the 26th is so early.
Well, it's just the way Labor Day lands this year. So like normally we would have the 3 days, then we'll go back. Then Monday's Labor Day. Then we have the 4 days. Then the following week is the first 5-day week. That's how it was this year. But I'm just commenting. I'm not proposing to change it. I'm just pointing out that it doesn't land that way. I think it's just the way Labor Day. Do you know what I mean? It's just.
And do you like that, or do you?
I don't know.
you
I
said
just
you're not
wanted to bring it to your
proposing something
attention.
alternative.
I don't know if anybody had.
What was the discussion the administration had about that?
We had the same conversation. We talked about, should we start after Labor Day?
Or the second.
We talked about that too. So you all know that we have to have 180 school days no matter what. And they, from the State Department of Education, and they even gave, believe it or not, Sandy Hook a hard time about the 180 days, and they had to actually apply. So this is 183. So we have 183 days. So at the end, yeah, we have more school days than that. So no, that's a good thing. We need time. Time's important when you're. Oh, I know. You're right. You're right. So we had that discussion. Then we also talked about the snow, obviously, and how. Another thing that we talked about is hopefully. So we have a ton of curriculum writing to do, and teachers are much more available to do curriculum writing and to do it well and to have more people engaged in it if we have the funds in June, if the year ends a little bit earlier. So we talked about that, and then we just decided it's been working, let's leave it the way it is, and not make that many changes because people are kind of used to it. So I'm not, what.
I think it might be helpful to kind of talk about these two agenda items similarly together, kind of the graduation date issue and this, because I hadn't noticed the Labor Day issue, and I'm inclined to want to start on the 2nd rather than the 26th, but I'd love to have the high school graduation date discussion, because just to kind of understand how that works and what that is, what we'd be proposing around that too. Oh, the 31st is a Monday.
But that would give us like that whole week before Labor Day, so we would still have 3 extra days, but we would just.
You guys awake back there? So you mean school start with.
So then the teachers would start so let me just look at this one, that's not two. So the teachers would come Thursday and Friday. And then the first day of school would be the 31st. And then I would have to add just to the end. God forbid we have a lot of snow.
Sorry, do you hate me for bringing this up?
No, please, no, go ahead.
I'm just I like how, I'm just saying this as a parent, I like starting on Wednesday and kind of easing into the school year. Like,
does work for a lot of
because
kids.
I just feel like kids, if we, jump in a five-day week the first week, I just feel like that's a lot. But that's just my input. So
That
So can we
air
talk?
conditioning too is a big thing
Yeah.
because if we're out earlier in June,
Yeah, but you still got- you're gonna hit the August air
We're gonna
conditioning
hit
here. It's
the
one
we're-
of 6
right,
one half
one
goes
of
into
right.
the other.
You get more.
It's always hotter in August.
Yeah.
So can we just, we have a motion made and seconded, but still part of the discussion here. Can we kind of briefly talk about the graduation date and what that means and what we can do now? Next,
No, it's this year. We can actually do.
I'm sorry, yes. So we're setting,
2020.
oh my God, it's the class of 2020.
Yeah, not this.
Yeah,
year.
but it still will impact here. So can we just talk about what the concept is that now that we could do, Fran? Because I think that may play into what we decide for this calendar. So to be clear, because I was screwing that up, the graduation day we're setting is for this school year that ends, but that same thing that we can do for this school year, I think may impact how we look at this calendar for next year. So if we could just briefly talk about what we are thinking about doing for this year. Fran, would you mind coming to the podium? Yep.
I know, that's what I'm doing the same thing. Following it up.
So tell us what we can do and what you're proposing to do for this year.
Well, I think the premise behind why the legislation had changed was because, and I've had this experience in my other lives, there are schools that pay close to $12,000-$15,000 for a facility for graduation, and what would happen is they would put a down payment on it, or they would pay half of it, or book it, and then they would have all these days, and then they couldn't rebook, and they would lose a lot of money.
Our rental's a little cheaper.
Yeah.
Correct. So it doesn't really affect us as much as it does places that actually need to rent out facilities, which is quite a few places, whether they rent out the Bushnell or they rent out, a college, like they rent out Central or wherever. That was the reason behind that was because they couldn't nail down a date.
But it does cause, you hear a lot every year from parents and families trying to figure out, when can I have my family in, when is it going to be, and we don't know
Right.
until April.
The last day of school is scheduled right now without snow days for June 11th, which is a Thursday.
Yeah, so this is not the calendar you're looking at, so take out your phones and look at your calendar there. Because I was
Right.
doing the same thing.
But wait, don't look at this.
Look at 2000.
We are now switching
Yeah,
to
don't look
discussion
at the
just to
paper
talk
one.
about the graduation date so we can
So,
figure out how it plays in here.
You can look, the other one is on the website. I just picked it up and put it on my phone. The last day of school is scheduled for June 11th, which is a Thursday.
So, okay, so now I have my calendar. Say it again. I'm sorry, friend.
So the last day of school is June 11th.
Yep.
It's a Thursday.
Yep.
It's where we would typically put graduation.
And so a couple questions.
Mhm.
When you say we typically put graduation, because we would put it on the last day of school.
Correct.
That will likely shift given snow days.
Correct.
I know you don't want to spend money on, no.
No, I just don't want to
The, but we can set the graduation date, any date that would be after 180, what's the parameters on when we can set the graduation date?
I think you have to be in school 180 days.
You have to be in school 180, but we could go past.
We have 183 days right now.
Yes.
Oh, so the June 11th is the 183rd day?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So,
Do we have to set it now?
We don't have to set it now. We could wait. We could do the nice thing is families get to start making their plans. But the truth of it is that if we set it and it snows more than we expect,
Like if we get 10 days of snow, we're in trouble.
We're in trouble.
but for example, but to Megan's point, so often what you hear is people would love to have it on Friday. Is there what's the downside if we were to set it for June 14th?
June 14th. That's a Saturday,
June 12th.
or for a Sunday.
That would be the downside, is it's not a real day.
You need your phone.
So if we tell the public,
terrible.
if we tell the public that we have set it for June 12th,
No.
which is a Friday,
Just the Friday.
It's a Friday.
Do you want the lap?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not on
183 is
21. I'm in 19.
Yeah,
Hold
no.
on.
You need to be in 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to be in 20.
Stop living in the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah, that's why we
everybody
can't-
get on the right
we can't really
calendar.
Look at the calendar.
Sorry,
of the
Fran.
graduation
But I
date
thought I was doing the
together.
right thing. I was on the wrong
It's
year.
hard. It's so hard, but your concept is correct.
Okay.
Look at this.
So June 12th.
The risk we take is if we have 5 snow days. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah,
Jay's
but
on
if
the
we
same
have,
wavelength.
and when's the last time we had 5 snow days?
Oh, not last year, but the year before.
We had 5?
More than that. I think we had 8, didn't we?
Yeah, but we took,
The year
at that
before,
point,
we actually had to
go
reduced
into one of the
number days in
vacations.
School. We went from 183 to 181, I think, or something.
You're
a couple
right.
Years ago.
You're right. We did that 2 years in a row, actually.
We did.
But if we
Yeah.
have five snow days, and we're the 12, that's still 100.
No, it's the 11th. So you add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 18th. If you go back 3 days, it'd be you have to graduate the 15th, which is a Monday.
Yep. I think this is premature.
Oh, but so
Correct.
I'm just reading from Cabe's email, so I've not read the underlying legislation. This says that the Public Act 19-195 provides Board of Eds with the option to set a graduation date at any time during the school year, as long as the date set is at least 180 days from the first day of school.
Correct.
That's different than saying after 180 days of school because of the snow.
Say it again then. Read it
Because
again.
it says the intent was to provide districts the ability to set a date for graduation that remains firm, is not affected by school cancellations, which seems to me that they're saying that June 12th,
You could set it.
June 12th is 180. Let me see if we just pull it up here.
Yeah, you're right. Whether it snows or it doesn't snow. But then the problem is you have to have
We
school.
don't need to set it.
After it. No one would go to school, and that would really affect our chronic absentees. Which we're at 10%, by the way. We want the seniors to come as much as.
Go ahead, John. John?
I understand they said we can do it, but it will not come as a surprise to anybody, but I disagree with Kate, and let's hold off.
Your disagreement with Cabe aside, what's the, other than not liking Cabe, what's your opposition?
Other than not liking Cabe, I think that we are inviting, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Other than not liking Cabe, we are inviting confusion at the end of school by making a decision before we have to. I think, I understand people want to wait, so why don't we relook at this in February? We will have gotten through the bulk of the snow season at that point, and rather than waiting until April, we can give 4 months' notice.
You said it now, people react to it, and then to change it later might raise the ire.
So I guess I definitely don't want to wait till April. I don't think we get a lot of complaints and feedback that that's not helpful for people. I'm okay with February. And Fran, you may know best. I'm guessing we have a decent amount of snow that happens in March that causes snow days or not. I'm just trying to
I can
picture.
remember the last couple of years, we've had a
March
lot of
is
snow days in March.
March is
Yeah.
crazy lately.
March, for some reason, has been nuts.
But again, we will know, even if we have 3 snow days in March, we will know.
We had 5 in
we
October.
will know where we are roughly. We'll have a better sense of where we are.
If you have snow days, then you're eating into your 183 days.
Right.
So let me read the exact language from the statute, if I could. Notwithstanding any provision of the general statutes to the contrary, a local Board of Ed may establish for any school year a firm graduation date for students in grades 12, which is no earlier than the 180th day noted in the school calendar originally adopted by the board for that school year. Isn't that look? Oh, that's deleted. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
It's almost like they're saying that a senior doesn't need 180 days.
Yeah.
So then
Correct.
theoretically, under that.
Is that the correct interpretation from our educators in the back row?
You know, they won't show up after graduation.
So,
So has Glastonbury done that?
what do they use for graduation? Where do they use? What facility? Do they use the high school?
So my question is this, because it's not in statute, and we do have a problem. We are at the 10% mark for chronic absenteeism, so would we have to mark the seniors absent? That's the question that I have
can't
for the State
fathom.
Department of Education. When it comes to the State Department of Education, I don't put anything past.
Once they have that diploma, they're not students anymore.
So by way of benchmarking, would one of are you both in Glastonbury?
I don't know that.
Would one of you mind just telling us, coming up to Mike, telling us what happened in Glastonbury, like how the decision made? And I know I think many of you, probably all of you, maybe all of you know Jen Lamberson,
Jen Lamberson.
candidate and former board member Scott's better half.
Scott's wife. My understanding is that they have set a graduation date for the seniors, and that's the seniors' last day. But what is happening with underclassmen, I'm
Yeah.
not totally clear on. What I got from our meeting is that underclassmen might continue to keep going, and we continue to keep going with them.
And what was the general? Do you know what the general response in the community
Everyone
was?
was, I think, really happy about it.
Do you know why?
I think for that very reason, they have family coming in from out of town. They want to just have everyone prepared for that, just kind of get everything all set and in order for graduation parties and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's what I would suggest. I would suggest we table it for tonight, but try to get some more information, particularly on the impacts, as well as maybe benchmarking with some other towns to see what they've done. Because this prompted me to raise this with Enza, because Cabe, I think it was, I don't know, I never know if Cabe sends it to just the chairs or everybody. A bunch of towns have gone suit and done this. I think to Fran's point, many of them were in the situation of wanting to book a facility.
They
and be
book
able to lock
facilities
down.
and they end up losing lots of money by having to change it.
But what I'm going to suggest is let's put this on the agenda for December 10th, and let's see if we feel more comfort. And if we don't, we don't. But let's put on the agenda for December 10th, at least talk about it with a better understanding of what the ramifications are and if it's something we want to do. So I'll entertain a motion to table the setting of the graduation date to December 10th.
So moved.
Second? Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously, so that goes to December 10th. So now we are back to the motion we have on the floor that's been seconded for the 2020-2021 calendar and talking about the start date. So those who haven't voiced an opinion on a start date, I've heard basically, I think, 3 different start dates, which would be the proposed start date that's currently here, the 26th. We had one suggestion for the 31st and one for the 2nd. Anyone who hasn't voiced an opinion want to voice an opinion? Selena?
I think the second would be easier to do because people might just think, expect, what makes sense because the Labor Day weekend follows. If you changed it another week later, I think people would, or no, was the other option the 31st?
So anything's on the table.
Yeah.
Someone suggested the 31st.
Past the second, I don't think would be a great idea. But I'm all for the second because I do think it's really hot in August, and I like the breakup of the 3 days.
Is your mic on, Megan?
I was trying to give a couple more days with the 31st, but I like the second. If I had a choice between the 31st or the 2nd or the 26th.
I know.
That's why I think we should get rid of the 3 extra days.
Yeah, so Fran's commentary is that if we do move to the 2nd, with the current schedule, everything else the way it is, that would be a last day of school on June 16th.
With no snow days.
Yeah, correct, agreed.
Without any
Yeah,
snow
but what would be on the calendar?
Right.
What about the 31st? If we started on the 31st, what would that?
It would be the 14th.
Is that a Friday? What is
It's
it?
on Monday.
It's a Monday. I say we make it that Friday and take one of our 180, make it 182 days.
No.
The
We need more time.
I
Not
do.
less.
I think starting on a day other than the Wednesday would be confusing, and we'd almost certainly have people being screwed up.
People aren't as dumb as we.
I'm not saying dumb. I'm just saying it's been such built in. So we got Jay, Jeff, then John, and any other Jays who want to go after them.
You were just asking for opinions?
Yes.
Leave it the way it is.
Okay, leave it the way it's
Leave it
proposed.
as proposed.
Okay,
Leave it the way it is.
Jay, Jeff.
Same.
John?
I can't believe it. This is your going away present, Jay. I agree with you.
Okay, so I'm just taking a little caucus to see what we have here before we
agreed
decide
to
what
leave
the
it.
freaking vote is. So I did not say freaking.
We got it on film.
That's what I said. I said, you just.
Sorry, how many people are watching now in TV land?
My daughter is.
Hi, Marina.
I'm sure my whole family.
Okay, so leaving it on the 26th, we had John, Jeff, Lindsay, Jay. Okay, we just hit the majority. Okay, so we have a motion on the made and seconded to keep it as is. All in favor of keeping the schedule as proposed. Let's do a hand vote just so I can keep track of this. In favor, please raise your hand if you're in favor of the calendar as proposed by the administration. Oh, okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 3. Abstain? Nothing. So it passes 5-3. 5-3. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Does anybody need to? Can they leave?
No, they wanted to stay. I can't get them to leave. Tell them again.
Administrators, you're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to leave. Okay, first read of 2 policies. These are, one has gone through the policy committee, one has not? Okay. Okay. It's absolutely fine. Have a good day. So let's do the community relations one first. You may be interested in this one, so let's do that one first. So community relations policy. This policy has not gone before the policy committee. We had opted to bring it right to the committee, right to the full board. And what I would recommend is if we have comments or questions, we can certainly talk through them in real time. So this is reference F as in Frank in your packets. And is there anything you want to comment on this?
I would like for you, I didn't realize it until the packets went out. Just look at the policy and ignore the reg for now, because we need to look at the regs, and the regs are sent by the administration anyway, so it doesn't really matter. She just included them. I didn't realize it until I read my packet.
When we're looking
So
at
it's
page F, it's really the first 4 pages.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, and stop there when it says Form A. Don't look at Form A. We need to redo the regs. So here's the issue. We have many parents who would like to come in and observe their children, which is fine. We have some who have asked to come in, and we want parents to come in and volunteer. We encourage parents to come in and volunteer. We have also had some requests from parents, family members to come in and observe the entire classroom and to stay the entire day. And our policy was not updated. And this one is pretty specific about, we're not saying that you can't come into school, and we're not saying that you can't, we want you to volunteer. But what it's saying is that there are other children that don't necessarily, there are a lot of things happening in schools that didn't happen a long time ago as far as students' needs and confidentiality and services that students are receiving. But it's not reasonable for us to deny. I can't say, no, you could never come into a parent because I have students with special needs or whatever. But I have to be cognizant of how long the person is staying and what their intention of staying is. It also does cause a major disruption. It causes a major disruption to the classroom when anybody is in the classroom that isn't regularly there. Students are, especially the little ones, are very distracted by anyone that's coming in and out. And we have a lot of disruptions. I don't want to call them disruptions, supports that happen on a regular basis with our with the special needs programming, everything that happens. So we really want to avoid disruptions. We want to have guidelines, and this sets guidelines. And as I'm trying to explain to families that it is not a good idea for their child or for other children or for the teacher to come in and sit and observe a classroom for days on end. It's not realistic. It's not fair to the students. It disrupts learning. It's not fair. There has to be a balance. And with the old policy, because it's, I don't even know if we even have one. Did we have one, or was it old? 7, that's what I thought. It's so, yeah. It was not helpful, and we got into a very difficult situation, and we shouldn't have been in that situation, because we want to build relationships with our families. And I do like policy, because it sets a standard for why there's good reasoning as to why we would not allow a parent or a guardian to stay in a classroom day in and day out. If you want to come in and volunteer, if there's a purpose of why you want what you're looking for, we will work with you. But to say that you would like to stay the whole day and there's nothing that the school system can do about it because our policy is very old, it's a distraction and it's a disruption, and I don't feel that it's appropriate.
So let's open it up to comments, questions, thoughts. John?
My first thought is I actually like the language of the regulation a lot better than the language of the policy.
We'll look at that. I just want to have a...
So let me start that number one, we should not limit the language to simply parents and guardians. We need to include evaluators and experts who are...
Yes, absolutely. You're right.
Wait, say that again, John?
It's in there.
It's in there, but it's not always in there. And
it's here for anyone else who's coming in doing outside evaluations.
It's a little klutzy.
Observations, doctors, medical, anyone.
You bet.
Parent release.
Honestly, I don't object to having restrictions. The two things that I have a problem with this policy is section 5B.
5 what, John?
5B.
E.
B as in boy.
B as in boy.
B as in bad policy. Refers to the Family Educational Records and Privacy Act, and it doesn't apply to anything except educational records. So that paragraph is superfluous. There is no right under FERPA to privacy. There's only a right to have your records private.
So are you?
So I'm saying, I'm saying it's okay. It says that you can't keep somebody out for FERPA purposes, but you can't keep someone out for FERPA purposes under the law. So why have that in the policy?
So you don't object to it because it may be a helpful reminder, restatement, notwithstanding.
It's fine. If you want to leave it in, it's just clumsy.
Okay.
And lastly, section 10 on the final page, when observation requests are declined or restricted, the school administration should provide a detailed, and I would like to add the word written, explanation to the parent guardian for stating the reasons.
Okay.
I object.
Tell us why.
Because, again, putting ourselves at risk. If you have a teacher who is brand new out of school, and it doesn't have to be a brand new teacher, it could be a very experienced teacher, and they put something in writing that then...
This says administrators, though.
Oh.
The teacher doesn't get to make a decision.
Right, you're right. Okay, I thought it was teaching. I'm like, wait a minute, that cannot happen. Reason for the decision to develop alternative ways for the parents to obtain.
Could we just reference the policy instead?
I just So we would be going above and beyond what the policy is suggesting.
Well, this is a draft policy.
Yeah, right. And I'm thinking like a lawyer now.
Me too.
Why? Like I'm thinking the conversation between two is really important. I'm thinking of one situation right now between a family member
And listen, let me read through your concerns a little bit. You can certainly have a more detailed discussion. There may be, in any kind of conversation, there may be things that you'll have a level of candor in a discussion that you may not do in writing. I think what John's saying is, okay, that's fine, but whatever the thing you do in writing still has to be a detailed explanation. It may not be as detailed as the conversation that happens when you're delivering that, because it's not going to be, there will almost certainly be a conversation.
There will, yes, there always is a very much a big conversation. But
Sarah, do you want to come to the podium, Jeff?
Yeah, while she's doing that, just as a note, the form that's attached, which is the request to come into the classroom, has at the bottom for the school district personnel, if disapproved, state the reason for disapproval.
Right.
So.
That's why I wanted to relook at the at the regs.
Yeah, but what I think Jeff's saying is the model policy envisions that we'd give a written explanation.
And if it's not required, then that response is still within policy, even if the person leaves that line blank.
Well, no, because these are the regulations.
I understand, but
if we were to adopt the model policy,
I have seen
Right.
far, 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 far too many educational records with blank spaces.
No, I have.
Sari.
So I have, and John, you'll appreciate this. So I have the State Department IE guidelines. So in here, under the guidelines for in-school observations, and this was a model, the guidelines that Jessica Ritter actually sent us as we were kind of discussing all this. It says verbal, written, etc. So it doesn't really specify here if that it has to be written. So if we can put in verbal, written, etc. as it's stated in here.
Well,
so
but
then
what
we
I
give
think,
the option.
I mean, and it's not often I advocate
Stop.
for John's position, but I'll do it here. I think what John's saying is, regardless of what the proposed approach is, John saying he wants it to be a written explanation, which I appreciate generally the reasons for that, because it does kind of it forces you to have a good reason and to think about it, because it's going to be in writing rather than just a he said she said later. So what may be worthwhile is, because understandably you guys weren't thinking about that aspect, is, and I know that Jessica has looked at this, is maybe to talk that out with her. And is there any reason why that? Say it again? No, please.
Why would you oppose putting it in writing? Like, because you wouldn't deny a parent unless you had a valid reason. So what's the problem with putting it in writing?
Yeah, and I see both sides.
Yeah, I do.
People
see
say
both
you put
sides.
things in writing.
And
Too
then-
much in writing gets you, in a sticky
Right.
situation. But I get it, because if we are denying something, we'd want it to be clear as to why we're denying it. So.
Can I say something?
Please.
I feel like it also, though, could protect you more, because if somebody says, oh, she gave me some lame excuse on why I can't come in. If it's in writing, it's been made clear to what that was.
I think I see both sides too. I
Yeah.
see the same thing you're saying, except in the opposite way too. That you're now putting it in writing, and I don't think that's a good enough reason. And now we're going to have to argue, and then it becomes the person who's making the decision as to whether it's a good enough reason is our counsel that costs $450 an hour. But I don't.
Yeah, go ahead, Cindy.
Just a clarifying question.
Either way is fine.
These are parents that want to come in and observe, or these are professionals that are there for a particular student, or both?
Both.
I guess I would never think to ask to come in and observe a class. I mean, as a parent, you go in to maybe do a craft or read a book. I'm just surprised that that's
happens
even
more than
allowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess just to reiterate, we want to, if it's an outside provider that a family's inviting in, or a family, we always want to, in the best way possible, get them in. We don't ever want to deny a request. So we always are going to find, I think, a way that it's appropriate to have them in, whether it's for a short amount of time or, but it has to be for a reason. And I think that's why we want to have the guidelines. So they can't just come in and stay all day.
And I appreciate both of you's spirit, but I note that in the recent past, we have had abrupt changes in administration, and I would hate to have someone come in who didn't share your opinions.
So could I suggest that maybe you guys review that
only
with,
get 15%.
with Jessica to get her thoughts on that?
I'm formally making a motion to amend the policy to include the word written in
Well, we are on a first read.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the, I don't know that we typically have motions on first reads, but what I do is, let's note in the minutes, I'm just trying to think of the best way to do this, because usually this is happening through a policy committee. So what I would suggest is we'll have the minutes reflect John's comments, which, appreciating John's perspective, which again I tend to agree with here. Let's run it by Jessica to talk about the pros and cons, and then at the second read next meeting, my guess is John will make the motion to have that language, and then we'll have a second, and then we'll have yeah, it is fair, and then we'll have the discussion. Are there any other comments or questions? And again, so I think next time we don't worry about the regs and the form, and just focus on the policy. Selena.
Just a quick follow-up question to John, I guess. I'm wondering if this written, John, request, I'll wait.
John,
is your written request, are you hoping for a specific response, individual, customized to each individual, or like a template that, they can distribute via email or what?
We don't think you should come in to look at this class because you've been into 4 other classes and badly disrupted all of them. Is a perfectly valid
That's
reason.
exactly what I don't want them to say.
I understand that, but I have run into too many situations where a parent was told you can't come in because you're going to disrupt the class, and it is inevitably a parent who has greater concerns that gets that explanation. So,
and so let me just throw another thing on the table there, because I know there was a sense of urgency, which is why this bypassed the policy committee. So if there were no comments or questions, what I was planning on doing was entertaining a motion to amend the agenda, waive the first read, and turn it into a second read and approval. But the only grounds under which that would happen was if we either have I would only want to do that if we have a majority who is comfortable either approving John's motion without, basically without confirmation that the administration's also happy with it, or a majority who felt that no matter what the administration came back with, that they didn't support John's motion. Does that make sense? So how to just kind of do around the table on this question of writing, of having it in writing. How do people feel? Which I think it's either you definitely want it, you could care less, or you want to wait to hear from council. So I think we got John is in the wants it. Jeff?
Wants it.
Wants it. Lindsay?
I want it, but I want to hear from council.
Okay, you're in the council. We'll put you in the council column. Lindsay? Megan?
Kind of feel like that.
Want it, but council. Selena?
I don't want it only because I would first want to know if it was administratively possible to do this in a timely manner.
Okay, so I'm going to put you in a third column, which we're going to call the Selena column. I'm in a place I'm rarely, in the Flanders column, in the wants it. Jay?
I think I'm there too.
In the Flanders column?
Yeah.
And Lori? Okay, so here's what I'm going to suggest, given the need for urgency on this. I'm going to suggest that we entertain a motion to amend the agenda to turn this into a second read and approval, waiving the first read and putting the word written in here. Now,
So moved.
if you come back, I still think you should talk to Jessica. And if Jessica says, oh my God, that's a disaster, here's the things that you guys didn't know, well, then you come back to us and we entertain amending the policy. But if she doesn't come back with that, you then have an approved policy. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Just
So,
to be clear, the motion is for the policy because this reads as first read on the policy and the regulation.
yes, agreed. So here's what I'd like to entertain. Lisa, you ready? A motion to amend the agenda to change the item E from a first read, which we will waive, to a second read and approval only as to the policy, deleting the regulation and amending the policy to add the word written in the phrase detailed explanation in number 10. Mr. Flanders, did I eloquently state your motion?
Eloquently.
That's made and second?
I just have one other comment on the policy. It's just a typo.
Okay. Go ahead with your typo.
Under 5A, Romanet 1.
Yep.
The second line, it says the district must protect the privacy of student education records and protecting, just make protecting protect. So
where the hell are you looking?
It's on page B.
Yeah, 5A1.
Second line.
5A I, little I.
The second line.
Oh, and protect rather than protecting.
Yes, that's it.
And then, John, did you say FERPA is...
Records.
We have the wrong, it's records rather than
Should be
rights.
records, yeah.
Okay. So the motion includes all three revisions, written, the changing protecting to protect. It says rights on 5B. It says Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act.
Oh, records.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so, John, is that your motion?
That was exactly what I was. It was like the words
Came
from
out of
my
your
own
mouth.
lips.
Oh, now I'm going to have to go shower. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Lori, did you vote before you left? You voted in the Flanders column? Okay, so let's do a hand raise. All in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously. So come back to us if there's any issues after you talk to council. Otherwise, you got your policy. Okay, first read on the bloodborne pathogens.
Oh, you know what? I lied. It does say rights. I've been saying this wrong for 20 years.
Okay, Lisa, did you catch that? Everyone agree the motion was what it was? Motion was correctly, so get rid of the records to rights.
Honest to God, I've been saying it wrong for 20 years.
I think that's the best thing I've heard all night. Any comments on the first read of bloodborne pathogens from the policy committee? Otherwise, that will come back for a second read next meeting. Okay, action stipend approvals in reference G. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, abstention, motion carries unanimously. Stipends approved. So reference H, we have a new form of report, gives a little more information and than our prior list. And I would just note that for your records, but I will specifically and importantly note the second page of reference H, which I'll read briefly in its entirety. Dated September 10th from Paula Naidu. Dear Dr. Macri, I am submitting my formal letter of retirement. I will be retiring in November 2019. My last day of work will be November 29th. I've had the pleasure of working with so many wonderful people in all the buildings in the 21 years that I've worked for in the Cromwell Public Schools. I will miss them all. It is time for a new chapter in my life. My husband and I are moving to Florida, have a granddaughter on the way, and many travel plans accepted by Enzo with much regret. And certainly the board shares that. Paula has been just an awesome part of this district through thick and thin, and has really done so much for all of us as board members, for our faculty, staff, and administrators, and most importantly for all of our students and families. So just congratulations to Paula, and on behalf of the board and our community, just so much thanks, and we hope she enjoys every moment of her retirement. The good news is she's being succeeded by Mrs. Hicks, so we are very happy to welcome Lisa to that role.
I'm just not. It says Director of Human Resources Personnel Action. This is not an action item, right?
No, it's personnel actions that have occurred.
Fine. Okay. Yeah.
Activity is probably a
Thank
better
you.
word.
That's a better word,
Can we make
yes.
that change for the future? Enzo, would you
you
mind?
guys are rough.
It's a
Personnel-
fair point.
Activity. I read it. I'm like.
You'll see informational lists in I, J, K, L, and M. If you have any questions, please let Dr. Macri know. Policy committee is meeting next Tuesday?
A week from today.
Week from today. Jeff and I had some good discussions with Enza and Jessica Ritter over the past week. One of the things we want to do is make sure that we are doing policies that need being done and not ones that don't. Jessica's looking, you have a full agenda, but Jessica's doing a review of that agenda to see what we actually need policies on and what we don't, and then we'll go from there. Facilities Technology Committee met before today's meeting. Jay, anything you want to highlight for the rest of the board?
No, just got a couple of, we had a discussion on the ECS building project. We've got a couple action items. Tommy's going to have some conversations with the town on the finance side, and Enza and her team are going to circle back on some of the paperwork. Bring yourself up to speed and bringing everyone else up to speed on where we are with the project and what we need to do to get this thing moving along. What's up? Yeah, Tommy's going to talk to Mary Ann. Just a few other things Tommy's been working on. I don't think anything's really too pressing that needs to come to the board, so I think we're good.
Okay. Departure Ad Hoc Committee, Reporting Channels Committee, District Climate is meeting, met
Just tomorrow at 2
tomorrow.
o'clock.
Okay.
And we have a lot of people attending, and we'll have our we'll have our, it's difficult because we have students, and we have students of all different ages that are also on the committee. So I feel that it's important to listen to all of our stakeholders. I really want to hear from the students. And the only way I was going to hear from the high school students is if I had it at 2 o'clock before their activities began. And then I thought about every different way of doing this. So in November, we'll have a meeting at 6 o'clock. My thought is we'll get a lot of staff because they're invested, but not all will stay. So we're just going to see what works out better and figure it out that way. A lot of other parents have emailed me and said, hey, I heard you have a district climate committee. I'd like to join it. I said, sure. A lot of parents who have had serious concerns in the past, that may be labeled as, oh, no, not again. But it's important to hear from them because I want to know what has happened in the past that has been discerning to them. So we do have a good group of people, and it'll begin. I sent out a survey with Kiri and I sent out a survey to the members, and we focused on engagement, safety. Oh God, what's the other one? I can't remember. You're not on the committee.
Yeah.
You didn't get one?
No.
I'm sorry.
Probably didn't put me on the committee. I am on the committee. So
I didn't think you were.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gave me the list of committee members, and you're not on it.
It may have been.
I'm going to show it to you.
I trust you. Would you mind forwarding that to me?
Yes.
Yeah. And I am on there.
And so what we did was we gave the survey, and so we got 17 responses, and we coded it. We looked at patterns, and underneath all of the climate was the other one. So what we'll do is we'll have a very, and we didn't do a Likert scale because we wanted very candid responses, and that's what we got. So we'll have a discussion about that and what people are feeling, and we'll come up with 3 areas of focus, maybe more if the committee is up for it, and that committee will happen for the entire year. The other one, the ad hoc committee, Michelle and I, it depends. We've had 2 exit interviews so far. One, the person requested that I be included in the interview.
If I could,
well.
Let's not, because we want to get
Oh,
to
sorry.
Tommy said, let's
Go
not,
ahead.
we'll just skip
You don't
those and
care
come back
about
to those
that.
next
All right,
time. Public comments. So I did just get I think he's gone. Is it Mr. Zabrowski gone?
Yeah.
So he just sent a letter as communication voicing his opposition to any observation by parents in classes, and shares his perspective as a parent and teacher, and asked me to share this communication. I'll share it with the board separately, but yep.
Yes.
I just want yikes to show up on the record.
And that does include students who were suspended at the end of the year or over the summer who weren't able to serve their suspensions, I believe.
I object. it will be identifiable.
No, fair, but I think the data does not represent just people who were suspended in September by the nature of it being the first month of the school year. I think that's important, without identifying anything. It doesn't necessarily. I don't believe it does.
It could represent that.
It absolutely could. It absolutely correct. Okay, so topics of future agendas. The only other thing I want to add here, other than what we've talked about, is in December, I would like to talk about any new positions that you're going to propose in the budget in January and February, so we have time to digest that. So if we could spike that out in the December 10th agenda.
December 10th agenda.
Comments, updates, and announcements from board members and
We
administrators.
have to approve the additional action.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda items?
So moved.
I'm going to
I
miss
have-
Fletcher.
I have, November 12th, the SBAC and SAT reports. December 10th, the setting of the graduation dates, a discussion on that, and 12/10, new positions for the budget.
Yeah, and the pending claims, but I don't know if that's going to fit in November 12th or December 10th. So we'll play that by ear. Let's just put it as a placeholder on November 12th. It may move to December 10th.
Pending CHRO claims.
Pending claims broadly, not CHRO. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, abstention, motion carries unanimously. Before our executive session, comments, updates, and announcements from board members and administrators. Mr. Flanders. Okay. Again, and I said this to Lori as well before, but certainly wish you luck, Mr. Flanders, in the upcoming election. Can't promise I'll vote for you, but I wish you luck nonetheless. Jeff. Lindsay.
So the administrators are gone from WIS, but I just wanted to commend them on how nice and respectful they are to the students when I drop my son off in the morning. They're always outside. The assistant and the superintendent, the assistant and the principal are always outside, are always welcoming him, and my son really looks forward to it, and I see all the other kids that look forward to it, so it was just nice to see.
Enza will share that with them. So thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate it. Megan, any last words? That's it.
To Lori and John and our other board members that are going to be running. And thank you all for your
Here, here. Selena? I'm good. Enza? Jay?
No.
Lisa? Okay, motion to go into executive session to briefly discuss security strategy. Is there a second? Is there a motion? So, listen, Tommy was here anyway, so so listen, if you guys don't want to discuss today, we can push it off. I don't think there's anything time sensitive to discussion. No, but listen, it's 10 o'clock. Tommy was here anyway. It's not like he was hanging around for this. So, really, whatever you guys want to do.
Do you anticipate it's going to be an hour-long discussion?
Listen, it probably won't be 5 minutes, so
Fine, I'll make a motion. I was going to leave, but I'll make a motion.
motion to table.
No, a motion. Do we just want to do this? Oh, get it over with.
Tommy, what do you
Just wanna
think?
just know that we're doing a lot better every day. There you go.
Okay, how about we have a relatively quick discussion, and then whatever we want to make of it, we make of it. Okay, we have a motion to go into executive session, inviting Tommy and Enza into that. Is there a second? Second from Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, yes, you do. Motion carries 6-1 with Mr. Flanders opposed, but not for the normal reasons. And
You only get to keep this
so we go into executive
This is
session.
class-